Chapter 1868. Lin Wei's sudden words shocked everyone present. Even Yun Jian, who stood in the distance and watched the girl in the huge cage fight with the lion, without saying a word blinked. These words that Lin Wei said were truly incessant to shock people to death with his words. If Shuang was here, he would probably burst out laughing. Not long ago, Shuang had asked Lin Wei when he would find a woman to carry on his family line. Today, Lin Wei walked in front of this young girl and directly asked her, "Are you willing to marry me and give birth to my children?" How could marrying a wife be so casual? Lin Wei did not have any requirements for his other half. He walked up to the girl just now purely because the girl's actions just now were to his liking. To Lin Wei, as long as his other half did not cheat, he would not find any other woman except for her. There was no sex involved. It was enough to simply carry on the family line. Moreover, he was already 25 years old. It was time to carry on the family line. Seeing that the girl met his requirements just now, Lin Wei came over and said those words just now. Yun Jian, who was in the distance, blinked and watched with her arms crossed. The group of special forces from all over the world standing next to them, as well as the head of the hunting school and the chief instructor, Mijil, were all stunned. He saw the girl, who had just fought a lion, and was now lying on the ground in a sorry state, covered in wounds. Her clothes, which were not luxurious to begin with, had been torn in the fight with the lion. She raised her head and was pulled up by Lin Wei. She looked at Lin Wei with a pair of surprised eyes. The girl was very beautiful. She had a pair of sky blue eyes, regular facial features, and was very thin. At first glance, people would want to protect her, especially the girl's pair of stubborn and unyielding eyes, as if she would do her best to survive. The girl's appearance was no different from the people of Z country. The only difference was probably her pair of sky blue eyes. However, this pair of sky blue eyes was exquisite and beautiful to the extreme. Unlike cosmetic contact lenses, this pair of pure sky blue eyes had a natural and fresh beauty. 189 Come out now. You did a good job surviving from the lion's mouth just now. Master Lin Wei was joking with you. Could it be that you've never looked at yourself properly? How can someone like you be worthy of Lord Lin Wei? Before Jamil could say anything, one of his subordinates standing next to him roared at the girl on the other side. 189 was the girl's number and name. The man next to Jamil was called Buddy. The girl had been personally trained by Buddy, and Buddy had been coveting the girl's beauty for a long time. Previously, he had never found a chance to make a move on the girl. Buddy had planned to wait until the girl was about to be sent out of the hunting school to possess her. But he didn't expect Lin Wei to stand up and say such words to the young girl. Therefore, Buddy immediately spoke up. In the hunting school, the status of the students was not high. This was especially true for people like the young girl, who had been caught and trained here for more than 10 years for no reason. Her status was even lower than a dog's. Hearing Buddy's words, the girl's body trembled, but she didn't walk towards Buddy. The girl wasn't stupid. She clearly knew that Buddy was up to no good. Seeing this, Buddy cursed and pulled out a long leather whip from his waist. He walked towards the girl and said, "F***ck your mother. You don't even listen to me? Lord Lin Wei took pity on you, and you're taking advantage of him? This girl is still a virgin. I haven't even touched her yet." Buddy thought to himself. But Buddy was weaker than Lin Wei, so he naturally had to be respectful and find other reasons to take her back. I'm willing. As long as you take me out of here, I'm willing to do anything." The girl was clearly afraid of Buddy. She suddenly knelt down in front of Lin Wei and grabbed his hand. "F***ck you be**th, you're rebelling." Seeing this, Buddy was about to charge over aggressively. There was a steep slope here, and at the bottom of the slope was a huge cage. Buddy passed by Yun Jian and was about to jump down the slope when Yun Jian suddenly stretched out her leg and kicked Buddy's back, kicking him down the slope. Buddy couldn't react in time and was kicked down the slope by Yun Jian. He fell face first like a frog and couldn't stand up for a long time. After all, this was the hunting school, the territory of Buddy's group. Seeing that Yun Jian didn't restrain herself, everyone was terrified. However, Yun Jian's cold voice rang out. "Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." Chapter 1869. After Yunjian said that, Buddy, who had wanted to jump down the steep slope, but couldn't react in time after being kicked in the back by Yunjian, fell down the slope like a frog. His face was smashed hard on the ground, and he couldn't say a word. Now that he heard Yunjian's words, his expression was as ugly as if he had eaten dog poop. The worst thing was that Buddy's face was smashed hard. His mouth was smashed by the rocks at the bottom of the steep slope, and he couldn't say a word. Jamil didn't say anything when he saw this. Buddy was Jamil's subordinate, but Jamil wouldn't protect him. This was a place where the strong preyed on the weak. Even Buddy would be eyeing Jamil's position like a tiger eyeing its prey. He would attack Jamil at the first opportunity. In this place, everyone could only live for themselves. When Buddy got up from the ground and turned to look at Yunjian, he glared at Yunjian fiercely and said to Yunjian in his own language, "When I'm at the hunting school, I'll start from scratch. No matter how powerful you were in my hunting school, you will have to start from zero here. Little girl, I will remember this kick of yours." From the start, everyone had been speaking in Spanish. Everyone had learned Spanish before coming here. The hunting school was located in the tropical jungle of Venezuela. Any student who entered this place would have to sign a life and death agreement. This meant that even if Buddy did something to Yunjian behind her back, no one would question her death. Hence, people who could leave this place alive were usually so powerful that they were invincible, or they had to hide their abilities. They couldn't be the weakest person, nor could they fight for the strongest. Buddy remembered Yunjian's name. At this moment, Buddy didn't know that Yunjian and Lin Wei knew each other. He also didn't know that Yunjian was the young madam of the Inhun organization. Lin Wei had already taken the young lady's hand and pulled her out of the huge cage. Buddy turned his head and saw Lin Wei holding the young lady's hand. He knew that his plans for the young lady were ruined. Who was Lin Wei? He was one of the 4 leaders of Inhun. No matter how insensible Buddy was, he would never dare to snatch Lin Wei's woman. Originally, he just wanted everyone present to see a good show between the lion and the girl. But he didn't expect Lin Wei to take the girl away. Jamil narrowed his eyes and didn't say much. Actually, to Lin Wei, if the girl had refused just now, he wouldn't have forced her. All he wanted was a woman who could reproduce for him. That was it. Moreover, the task of reproducing could not be delayed. Jamil wanted everyone to watch the battle between the girl and the lion. He wanted them to understand the survival rules of the hunting school on their first day in the hunting school. No one can protect you here. You have to protect yourself. Strong enough to survive. Just like the girl from before. It was also because of the inhumane training in the hunting school that people who graduated from here would become the future pillars of the country. The incident with the young girl was just an accident. On the first day of school, Jamil didn't say much and let everyone return to their bedrooms. Because all of them were men, and Yunjian was an exception, Yunjian was arranged to be opposite the male dormitory. Yunjian had just walked into the dormitory when she saw the girl who was taken away by Lin Wei. There were 4 shabby beds and 3 empty beds in the dormitory. Only the young girl's bed was filled with simple and crude items. Seeing Yunjian, the girl was stunned, but she quickly remembered that Yunjian was the one who helped her kick Buddy just now. The girl immediately thanked Yunjian. Thank you for just now. The girl was taken away by Lin Wei just now, and later she begged him to let her go back to her dormitory. Lin Wei's dormitory was full of men, and the girl was still a little afraid. After living in the hunting academy for so many years, it was unbelievable that he could keep his chastity. The girl had suffered a lot so far, and even almost died. So naturally, she wouldn't trust anyone easily. Even if she agreed to Lin Wei's request, it would only be a delaying tactic for the girl. How could the girl not know Buddy's feelings for her? No need to thank me. Yunjian continued after the girl finished speaking. After that, Yunjian turned to look at the girl and asked for her name, which was rare. What's your name? Chapter 1870. Yi Ling, as her name suggested, was very beautiful. Her sky-blue eyes seemed to be able to speak. Even Yunjian couldn't help but take a few more glances at her. At this moment, Yi Ling was wearing loose, fluffy and tattered clothes from head to toe. Although the clothes she was wearing and her disheveled appearance were much better than when she fought the lion, after tidying up and tidying herself up, she didn't look much better. Yunjian knew that this was Yiling's way of protecting herself. If Yiling didn't make herself look bad, she would have been defiled by the men here. My name is Yunjian. I'm from country Z. Yunjian briefly introduced herself. Then, she turned over and laid on one of the empty beds. She put down her backpack and closed her eyes to rest. Yiling saw that Yunjian closed her eyes, but she still nodded at Yunjian. Then she sat on her bed and pondered. After a while, Yunjian opened her eyes. Yiling saw that Yunjian opened her eyes. It seemed that she hadn't found someone to talk to for a long time. Therefore, she asked Yunjian carefully, "Did you enter the hunting school on your own accord?" Hearing Yiling's careful question, Yunjian nodded, "Yes." "Why? Why did you enter the hunting school on your own accord? It's very scary here. We all want to leave," Yiling asked in confusion. "For strength. To be more powerful." Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Everyone's values and pursuits were different. Some hoped to be a doctor in the future. Some hoped to be a teacher in the future. Yunjian, on the other hand, pursued supreme strength. After hearing Yunjian's words, Yiling was silent for a while. Then she continued, "If you didn't ask for my name, I would have almost forgotten mine. I've been here since I was very young. 189 is my name. The women who are caught here either become objects for others to admire, just like when I was fighting the lion just now. Their lives are in danger at any time. Then, I'll be a slave to those men." Yiling clenched her fists in anger when she heard the word slave. After a moment of silence, Yiling breathed a sigh of relief and said to Yunjian, "The other women in the dormitory are all like me. They have been here since they were very young. But other than me, they all chose to be men's release tools." As for her, she was struggling bitterly. This was not the first time she had fought a lion, and she was covered in wounds every time. No one would sympathize with Yiling. If she did not leave this place, there would only be two outcomes for her. She could either compromise and become a tool for all the men here to vent their frustrations, just like the women in the other dormitories. Or they would fight the beasts endlessly until they died at the beasts' mouths due to exhaustion. There were originally 4 people in this room, but now I'm the only one left. Yiling sighed. Yiling didn't know why she was so talkative today. She told Yunjian everything she knew. After saying this, she felt that she was a little stupid. Why did she say so much? Okay. At this moment, Yunjian responded softly. Yunjian usually didn't pay attention to others. If she responded to Yiling, it meant that she already treated Yiling as Lin Wei's woman. Bang! At this moment, the door of Yunjian and Yiling's dormitory was suddenly kicked open. A woman led a group of women in fiercely through the door. The woman stepped on a broken stool in Yiling's dormitory as soon as she entered. She said rudely. Chapter 1871. Yiling had sat up straight when she heard someone kick the door. Now that she saw the woman who led the way and had one foot on the stool, and was talking to her, Yiling's expression changed. Basically, all the women here were capable. However, Yiling was the most hardworking and powerful one among the group of women. But Yiling's strength wasn't at the level where she could easily fight back if these women ganged up on her. These women were like Yiling. They had been captured and brought here since they were young. What made them different from Yiling was that they could be ked by any man here. They could be used as tools to vent at any time and place. To put it bluntly, they were prostitutes. Yiling had never compromised, so she was still a pure young girl. These women were very jealous, but they couldn't stand the pain Yiling could suffer. And they couldn't fight a fierce beast like a lion. That could lead to death. Therefore, these women would rather choose to sleep under a man's crotch than fight against death every day for the sake of their innocence. So they especially disliked Yiling. Why? Why was Yiling still a pure young girl? And they had become tools for all the men here to vent at any time. Sluts who could be ked by anyone. 211 This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Yiling stood up and looked into the woman's eyes. Yiling's body was covered in injuries, but she was still unyielding when she looked into the eyes of the woman with number 211. Everyone here used numbers to call each other. This woman with number 211 was called 211. Tisk, so those who caught Master Lin Wei's eye are different? Us sisters can't even enter Master Lin Wei's residence. You little slut. What right do you have to get Master Lin Wei's proposal? Sisters, take off all her clothes and throw her outside. 211 glared at Yi Ling fiercely. After the women from 211 found out about Lin Wei's identity, it wasn't that they didn't find a chance to climb into his bed, but they couldn't even enter Lin Wei's residence. They couldn't even see him. So when they heard that Master Lin Wei had taken a liking to Yi Ling, they were furious. In a place like this, the consequence of stripping a woman naked and throwing her outside was to be ked by a group of men who were eyeing women covetously. 211's viciousness could be imagined. Yi Ling furrowed her brows tightly. Chapter 211 was about to order the group of women behind her to attack Yi Ling when she saw Yun Jian's petite figure lying on the empty bed. NB 211 glanced at Yi Ling and spoke to Yun Jian in a sarcastic tone like a boss. What's the matter? Oh, there's a newcomer here? Did he just come in? You look so tender. Are you planning to be a chaste and virtuous woman like in 1899? Or are you going to open your thighs and ride them? The students of the hunting school were special forces from various countries. Naturally, their status was much higher than this group of women. The status of these women was even lower than dogs. For example, the difference between the students of the hunting school and this group of women was that the master was no different from the slave. Those who were ranked within 100 were the students of the hunting school. Those who were ranked after 100 were the slaves of the hunting school. Don't look at how arrogant 211 was in front of women. In front of men, he didn't even know how to write the word speak. Of course, NB 211 didn't know that Yun Jian entered the hunting school as a special forces soldier. NB 211 thought that with Yun Jian's age, she was at most a girl who had just been brought in. Yun Jian remained silent. NB 211 thought that Yun Jian was scared. He smiled sinisterly and ordered the group of women behind him. Looks like she's a mute. That's good. Strip them both naked and throw them into the yard. If they were thrown into the yard and seen by the men, Yun Jian and Yi Ling's chastity would definitely be lost. It would be strange if the men didn't pounce on them. Just as 211 made his vow, Yun Jian stood up and met his eyes with a smirk, showing him her number tag. Then, under 211 and the rest's fearful gazes, she spoke abruptly. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Chapter 1872. In the hunting school, anyone with a serial number after 100 was a slave. What did a slave mean here? It meant someone who could be bullied at will and could not fight back even if they were killed. All in all, 211 and Yun Jian were not on the same level. Yun Jian's serial number was 16. It was obvious that she was a new student. 211 was a slave here, which meant that 211's status was lower than a dog's. The group of women around her, including Yi Ling, were all slaves. Hence, 211 dared to be arrogant in front of people of the same rank, because they were all of the same rank. Just like slaying God from the kosher mercenaries, compared to a normal member of the kosher mercenaries. This analogy could be used to describe the difference in status between Yun Jian and 211. Therefore, Miss 211's expression changed abruptly when she heard Yun Jian's words. She stared at Yun Jian in disbelief as her expression changed drastically. You're a student. Not a slave? She was different from them. She was not a slave. 211 thought that Yun Jian was a slave, because Yun Jian was young. There were many women who were Yun Jian's age, who were brought into the hunting school. Moreover, which hunting school had a female student? Only men like Chun Yang and Ding Jianlin could enter the hunting school and become its students. Not only was Yun Jian a girl, but she was also so young. 211 did not mix Yun Jian with the students of the hunting school because of this. Yun Jian's words almost scared 211 to death. Needless to say, 211's status in the hunting school was not on the same level as Yun Jian's. When 211 heard Yun Jian's words and saw Yun Jian's serial number, which symbolized her status, she was stunned for a few seconds. She was so scared that she fell to the ground and begged for Yun Jian's forgiveness. The group of women behind 211 also knelt down in fear and begged for forgiveness. Yun Jian was too lazy to argue with this group of women. She didn't come here to argue with these women, so she softly shouted, "Scram." Seeing this group of women scram out of here in fear, she didn't bother with them anymore. After these women left, Yiling let out a sigh of relief. Just as she let out a sigh of relief, someone knocked on the door. It was a man. This man was quite polite. He knew that this was the female dormitory, so he didn't enter directly. "Are you looking for me?" Yiling pointed at herself and asked. "Master Lin Wei is looking for you," the man said. Yiling was stunned. For some reason, she turned to look at Yun Jian. "Go ahead," Yun Jian said and closed the door. Obviously, she did not want to let Yiling in. Yiling was stunned and followed the man to Lin Wei's residence. Everyone here respectfully addressed Lin Wei as Lord Lin Wei. After the man brought Yiling into Lin Wei's place, he closed the door and left. This made Yiling a little scared. Yiling wanted to open the door, but found that it was locked. She tried to open it twice, but to no avail. When she turned around and saw Lin Wei standing behind her, she was so scared that she leaned against the door. Master Lin Wei, why are you looking for me?" Yiling swallowed. "Do you remember what you said just now?" Lin Wei said simply. Yiling didn't know what to say, but she still nodded. In front of a big shot, it was best to nod. Otherwise, her life would be in danger. This was Yiling's experience. Seeing Yiling nod, Lin Wei suddenly walked in front of Yiling and placed his hand on her chest. What are you doing?" Yiling was so scared that she pushed Lin Wei away. "Making a baby," Lin Wei said simply. Then he added, "You promised." Was he serious?" Yiling's eyes turned. Yiling did promise Lin Wei just now to avoid Buddy. She wanted to use Lin Wei's identity to make Buddy not dare to do anything to her in the future. Just as Yiling was thinking, Lin Wei walked over and trapped Yiling in front of the door. Seeing that Yiling didn't make a sound, Lin Wei leaned over and buried his head in Yiling's neck. I lied to you. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose." Yiling was scared now. She struggled to speak. The next second, Lin Wei grabbed Yiling's wrist, which was completely harmless to him. His eyes met Yiling's, and his breathing became heavy. His words were still simple and easy to understand. Chapter 1873. If Yiling had rejected him at first, Lin Wei would not have forced her. However, since she had agreed, she could not reject him. This was Lin Wei's way of doing things. Once she had agreed, there would be no more room for discussion. Yiling's pure blue eyes were exceptionally alluring. Her long eyelashes fluttered up and down, setting off her pair of beautiful eyes. Unlike pretty girls who wore contact lenses, Yiling's eyes were pure blue, a beauty born from nature. It also attracted Lin Wei's attention. Since Yiling could survive the lion's blood, she was naturally not weak. However, Lin Wei was the most powerful among the 4 leaders of the Inhun organization. He was in charge of the Inhun organization's assassin training camp and had trained many powerful people. To be fair, Yun Jian would not be who she was today if it were not for Lin Wei's guidance when she was slaying God. Although Yun Jian was powerful, and her current ability was even more powerful than Lin Wei's, without Lin Wei's guidance back then, her ability would not have expanded. Moreover, Lin Wei's ability was something that could take the world by storm if he were to announce his name. Yiling was no match for him at all, so there was nothing she could do when Lin Wei grabbed her wrist. Yiling was a smart person. This could be seen from the fact that she knew how to use Lin Wei's identity to stop Buddy from harming her back in the huge cage, when she knew that Buddy had bad intentions toward her. However, Yiling did not expect Lin Wei to take it seriously. Yiling immediately looked at Lin Wei. She swallowed her saliva and tried to negotiate with Lin Wei without any confidence. "I lied to you on purpose, I admit that. I'm very sorry about this. I know that I'm not qualified to talk about conditions with Master Lin Wei now. But can you wait until I leave the hunting school? Until I have my own strength? No matter what you ask of me, I'll agree to it." Yiling was not confident when she said that. After all, she had nothing at the moment. All right. Yiling was relieved to hear what Lin Wei said. However, Just as Yi Ling was relieved, Lin Wei grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his embrace. He then carried her and said coldly, "I want you to bear my children." Yi Ling was speechless. In the female dormitory building, Yun Jian and Yi Ling's room. After Yi Ling was called away by the people sent by Lin Wei, Yun Jian not only closed the door directly, but also locked it. At this moment, she was resting on her bed with her eyes closed. Knock, knock, knock. At this moment, someone knocked on the dormitory door again. The door to the dormitory was very old. The people outside could easily break the lock with one kick. Since the people outside chose to knock on the door, it probably wasn't the people from 211. Yun Jian stood up, walked to the door and opened it. What he saw was a very ordinary and unfamiliar man's face. "Young madam, I am Gui Ying. The young master asked Lord Mo's son to send me to deliver a letter to you." The man saw that there was no one around. After handing an envelope to Yun Jian, he turned and left. Gui Ying was Mo Sen's subordinate. He was quite handsome, and it was obvious that he had disguised himself to sneak into the hunting school. Yun Jian closed the door after seeing Gui Ying leave, after handing her the envelope. The hunting school was isolated from the outside world. Yun Jian's phone was confiscated as well, so Ci had sent someone to deliver the letter to her secretly. She closed the door and opened the letter. When she read the contents of the envelope, Yun Jian blushed. There were not many words in the letter, but it was Ci's style. "Xiao Jian, I really want to stay in your body for the rest of my life, and become one with you." In Lin Wei's residence, Yi Ling was still unable to react when she was lifted up horizontally. In the next second, Yi Ling was thrown onto Lin Wei's bed, and she could smell his scent. Yi Ling panicked. Just as Yi Ling was about to stand up, Lin Wei's sturdy body was already on top of her. He held her hands down and his breath blew on her neck, making her shudder. Yi Ling was frightened by Lin Wei. Just as she was about to struggle, Lin Wei pinned her down. Yi Ling could even feel her legs being separated. Chapter 1874. After Lin Wei said this, Yi Ling put her hands on her chest and pressed against Lin Wei's body. She blinked her beautiful little eyes and didn't make a sound. She was clearly frightened by Lin Wei's words. Lin Wei looked at Yi Ling for 2 seconds before getting off her body and standing on the edge of the bed. After 2 seconds of silence, Lin Wei said to Yi Ling, "From now on, you'll live in my room." It was still a simple yet direct declaration of sovereignty. After Yi Ling heard this, she blinked and said, "My things are still in the girls' dormitory, and how can I live with a man and a woman alone?" Before Yi Ling could finish, Lin Wei's voice interrupted her, leaving her no room for negotiation. "Go get them." In the end, when he heard that Yi Ling was not willing to live with him, Lin Wei's sharp eyes suddenly frowned. The next second his brows relaxed and he said, "If you don't want to, I'll get Buddy to find you." Yi Ling was smart. She agreed to Lin Wei's request to avoid Buddy. However, Lin Wei wasn't stupid. He naturally knew Yi Ling's little tricks. Therefore, when she heard Lin Wei's words, Yi Ling immediately recalled that Buddy had been indulging himself with the women in 211 every day and night. Other than her and the new student Yun Jian, Buddy had already had a taste of all the girls in the girls' dorm. It was disgusting. It was more than disgusting. If she let Buddy do this to her, she might as well die. "I promise you," Yi Ling said very softly. Although Lin Wei didn't seem like a good person, ever since he appeared, he didn't look for other women like other men. Plus, at this juncture, she had no choice but to agree to Lin Wei's request. "Go get them now," Lin Wei said simply with Yi Ling on his back. However, when Yi Ling wasn't looking, Lin Wei's lips, which had been indifferent all his life, actually curved up slightly. Ever since Lin Wei got together with Ce, his face had always been expressionless. No matter if he was in pain or happy, there was never a second expression on his face. But today, because Yi Ling had agreed to live with him helplessly, the corners of his lips had curled up without him noticing. If Snow Eagle or Adam saw this, they would probably jump up and exclaim, "This isn't our Lin Wei." In the girls' dorm, Yun Jian hid the envelope that Ce had sent to her in her backpack. Then, she closed her eyes to rest. Not long after she closed her eyes, someone knocked on the door again. This time, It was Yi Ling. Yun Jian, I can't stay with you anymore, Yi Ling said to Yun Jian dejectedly. At the same time, she recounted what had happened. Of course, she didn't mention that Lin Wei touching her breasts and kissing her shoulder and her collarbone. Go on. Yun Jian uttered only 2 words at that. After 2 seconds of silence, Yun Jian added, Do you need me to organize your stuff? Yi Ling almost suspected that Yun Jian was Lin Wei's biological mother. She couldn't wait for her to go to Lin Wei's place. In the end, Yi Ling simply packed her things and moved out. Yi Ling's best choice was to move out. On Lin Wei's side, he had Lin Wei's protection. Tonight was destined to not be a peaceful night. Yun Jian closed her eyes and continued to rest. At night, at 1:30 in the morning. You're so annoying, Master Buddy, please be gentler. In room 211, 211 was doing some vigorous exercise with Buddy. Her roommates were all there, but they were already immune to her and Buddy's actions. They couldn't accept it. They couldn't accept seeing Yi Ling move to Lin Wei's place. The fatty meat in their mouths had run away. After that, 211 could tell at a glance why Buddy was angry. She suddenly remembered what Yun Jian had done to her during the day. She rolled her eyes and recommended herself to Buddy. Master Buddy, although Yi Ling left, there's a girl who's prettier than her living in her dorm. Oh! When Buddy heard that, his perverted face narrowed. But that girl is a student of our hunting school. I don't think it'll be easy to deal with her. 211 lowered her head and sighed. Student? There's only one girl in this cohort. Could it be her? Buddy suddenly thought of Yun Jian, and anger immediately surged into his brows. He was still in pain from that kick. Master Buddy, do you know that girl? Let's not talk about anything else. I think she's quite hot. 211 leaned on Buddy. Buddy suddenly licked his lips and revealed a sinister smile. Since that girl dares to treat me like this, I must have her. As he spoke, Buddy thought of Yun Jian's beautiful face and body. He grabbed 211 and started another round of exercise. Chapter 1875. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Buddy had already returned to his place. He grabbed a few women who were good in bed and took turns to serve him. Now he finally calmed down the anger of Yun Jian's kick during the day. At 3:15 in the morning, the night finally quieted down. Yun Jian, who had been resting with her eyes closed during the day, suddenly opened her eyes in the dark. Her beautiful black eyes seemed to reflect a strange light. In this hunting school, unless she was an international student, the moment she entered the school, no matter how good her previous achievements were, she would have to start all over again. Except for the fact that men from different countries were better than women, those who could enter the hunting school were usually men. If you want to know the reason, it's probably because in a hunting school, no matter what happens, men are always better than women. If a woman lost her virginity here, her whole life would be ruined. And if a man was raped, it was probably done by a gay man. Unless there was a woman who was so fierce that she couldn't find a man to rape her. About 3:35 in the morning, an earth-shattering sound was heard. In the next second, both the boys' and girls' dormitories seemed to have been blown up by something. Was there an earthquake? That was the feeling. What happened? What happened? What happened? In the boys' dormitory, the men from different countries all got up in fright. They put on their clothes and got up from their beds very quickly. They all came from the army and were elites from different countries. Of course, these men couldn't be weak. Soon, they put on their clothes and rushed out of the dormitory. Bang! 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 But when they rushed out of the dormitory, they were faced with gas bombs one after another. The gas bombs fell from the sky one after another, just like on the battlefield, making them confused. What the hell is going on? A foreign man exclaimed. Everyone was terrified. Among this group of foreigners, the calmest ones were probably Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin. Perhaps influenced by Yun Jian's calmness, Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin became calm and collected when they ran into trouble. Don't panic. There must be a reason for all of this. Chen Yang frowned and kindly reminded them. At this moment, the large loudspeaker in the dormitory building sounded, and Chief Instructor Jamil's voice immediately rang out. Hey students, how was your rest last night? Did everyone enjoy tonight's gift? After cracking a joke, Jamil quickly got to the point. I forgot to tell you before I entered the school. Our emergency assembly in the middle of the night, including the bugle call to wake up, uses gas bombs instead of whistles and bugles. You, on the other hand, must pass through our dormitory building amidst the gas bombs and reach our large field within 3 minutes. Then Jamil added, oh, by the way, if you don't come in 3 minutes, you'll be the first to be eliminated by the school. Good luck then. After he finished speaking, the gas bombs were still going on. Hearing this, everyone's fighting spirit surged. While avoiding the gas bombs, they all ran towards the sports field. 3 minutes later, everyone arrived at the sports field. As a group of elites, it was impossible for them to be sent to the hunting school if they didn't even have this bit of strength. But even so, there were still a few people who were injured. Basically, everyone had scratches or bruises at the moment, or it was obvious that they had broken through the gas bombs. But when everyone arrived at the sports field, they saw Yun Jian leaning against a tree, standing lazily. Her clothes were not stained with any layer of dust, as if she had not experienced any trouble at all. But everyone knew that the male and female dormitory building were attacked by gas bombs. The hunting school would not show mercy to women. Chapter 1876. Compared to the disheveled crowd, Yun Jian stood in front of them with her hands behind her head. She was brisk as if she had really walked to the field on a smooth journey, and did not experience the gas bomb attack at all. How did you get here so fast? Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin looked at Yun Jian in surprise. Perhaps they didn't realize that Yun Jian actually came here so fast from the dormitory building. You guys are too slow. Yun Jian squinted at the embarrassed people. She straightened her body leaning against the tree, put her hands in her trouser pockets, and walked over. At this moment, this group of men couldn't say a word. Yun Jian glanced at the group from the corner of her eyes, and pressed her lips together, before a smirk appeared on her face. This is impossible. You're just a woman. A foreigner pointed at Yun Jian, and suddenly shouted in disbelief. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Could it be that this girl went against the heavens? She was actually able to leave that place so quickly without leaving a single layer of black or gray dust on her body, when the gas bomb attack was so overwhelming. She was the first to arrive at the sports field. Even if the people present were elites from all over the world, at this time, they were all injured. Some were even seriously injured, but still dragged their seriously injured bodies to come here. Yun Jian, on the other hand, did not even have a scratch on her from the gas bomb just now. She was standing in front of everyone just like that. She was just a woman. Yun Jian just curved her lips and didn't say anything. Clap, clap, clap. Just at the moment when everyone was shocked, a figure came out from the dark. It was Jamil. Jamil clapped his hands. Although he was also surprised, he still smiled and walked over. Don't doubt. My hunting school is full of cameras in every corner of the school. She just quickly came to the sports field from the gas bomb. There is no doubt about it. Jamil admitted Yun Jian. When he said this, Jamil's eyes flashed slightly. It could be seen that Jamil also had a certain degree of disbelief at this moment. Just now, he saw from the camera that Yun Jian's lightning-fast figure passed through the gas bomb, and strangely passed through it without any dust. From the beginning of the hunting school to the entrance of each batch of students, Jamil had never seen anyone who could calmly dodge the gas bomb attack like Yun Jian. What was even more unbelievable was that she was just a young girl. Hearing Jamil's words, the people present naturally didn't doubt it. But the amazement at Yun Jian's actions didn't stop. Very good, you all survived. Standing in front of the people, Jamil narrowed his eyes and scanned the crowd. Although many people were injured, all of them survived. In the past years, there were also students who died in the gas bomb attack. And the reason why the hunting school became famous was because it was the most effective, but also the most cruel school. That was because every weapon used in the training of the hunting school, including the exercise in jungle warfare, the firearms used were real guns. Of course, the hunting school wouldn't deliberately attack the students. Once there was an accident, it would be a case of failure. Therefore, the casualties were not small. What do you think about the gas bomb attack? Jamil suddenly asked. With that, Jamil turned to look at Yunjian, narrowed his eyes and said, "Let's let our first place say her thoughts." His words were directed at Yunjian. Everyone's eyes swept over Yunjian, but they saw Yunjian on the other side. The red arc was unusually bright under the dim light of the night. Chapter 1877. That one sentence summed it all up. However, after hearing Yunjian's words, everyone present, including Jamil, twitched their mouths. They stood rooted to the ground in shock, unable to react for a long time. What did she mean by the bombs were not powerful enough? The surprise attack of the gas bombs earlier had already caused many people present to suffer from abrasions. A few of them were even seriously injured. Wave after wave of bombs was simply too much for the people present to handle. And Yunjian, she actually said that the bombs were not powerful enough? Using bombs of this level for a surprise attack was useless? Did she mean that it was completely useless? What do you mean by that? Do you think you're so great? Young lady, let me give you a piece of advice. You're pretty strong, capable and talented. This is your ability. However, in this world, it doesn't mean that you can spout nonsense just because you're strong, capable, and talented. If this goes on, you'll eventually have to pay the price for your nonsense. After hearing Yunjian's words, a foreign man's face froze. Then, he spoke to Yunjian in an adult tone. So what if Yunjian was powerful? Seeing how arrogant she was, even if she had the ability, she would have to pay the price for her arrogance. I don't know if I'll have to pay the price in the future, but I know that the strong are all born under impossible circumstances. Today, you think that you're very strong for dodging a bomb of this level. Then tomorrow, you won't continue to work hard. As for the price you're talking about, if I become the king, who can do anything to me? Yunjian's words rang out word by word, spreading to every corner of the place. Everyone who stood rooted to the ground, including Jamil, pricked up their ears. No one had expected Yunjian to have such resolve. Yes, everyone thought that Yunjian was arrogant, and felt that she was indeed amazing for having such strength at such a young age. However, many young elites had spoken rudely, arrogantly, and spouted nonsense because of their arrogance, and because they thought that they were powerful. In the end, the price they paid was that all their talents were destroyed. But no one had expected Yunjian to say such things. If she became the queen, who could do anything to her? At such a young age, he already had such deep ideals. This point made everyone present have no choice but to be convinced. Clap, clap, clap. While everyone was deep in thought, Jamil clapped his hands again. Then Jamil's hearty laughter rang out. Good little girl. Haha, good. You have a bright future. With that, Jamil's face suddenly darkened and he said to Yunjian eerily, I hope you can successfully graduate from the hunting school. Graduation meant that they would be able to leave the hunting school alive. After saying this, Jamil ended the emergency late-night assembly. After instructing everyone to leave, everyone went back to their dorms. Yunjian was no exception. She turned around and walked leisurely to her dormitory with her hands in her pockets. 16. Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin stopped Yunjian. Upon hearing this, Yunjian narrowed her eyes and turned around. You are excellent. Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin gave Yunjian a thumbs up. Thank you. Yunjian nodded and replied, You too. Seeing this, Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin scratched their heads and walked back to their dormitory. The moment she turned around, Yunjian felt a pair of dark eyes staring at her in the dark. Yunjian paused for a moment, but didn't stop walking back to her dormitory. In the dark, the owner of the pair of dark eyes saw that Yunjian didn't notice him walking back to her dormitory. This pair of dark eyes flashed even more sharply. Which god we finally meet again? Chapter 1878. After Yunjian returned to her dormitory, she fell asleep immediately. Yi Ling had moved in with Lin Wei, so she would be the only one in this dormitory from now on. The night passed uneventfully. Although the emergency assembly in the morning was at 3 o'clock, Yunjian had rested during the day, so she did not sleep much the next morning. Yunjian woke up at 4:30 in the morning. She only slept for more than an hour and went out for a morning run. When she came back, it was already 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, the gas bomb's reveille horn arrived as promised. Everyone was worthy of being elites from various countries. With last night's experience, everyone cleverly avoided the gas bomb's surprise attack. Although everyone's faces were still as black as charcoal from the gas bomb's dust, and their clothes were also covered in dust, compared to last night's injury rate, no one was injured today. Perhaps it was because of what Yun Jian had said, or perhaps it was because of their first day at the hunting school. Everyone unanimously asked Jamil to be stricter with them. The hunting school's training lasted for a year. In other words, within this year, the special forces of various countries would have to undergo a lot of inhuman training. If they could not take it, they would be disqualified midway and not allowed to graduate. Even if they were seriously injured midway, as long as they did not rejoin the team after 48 hours, they would be disqualified. Moreover, within this year, there would be countless gunfights and actual combat selections. For example, when they crawled forward, bullets would fly above their heads, and the selected personnel would not have any protection. If they deviated from the direction, they would even trigger a mine. Therefore, the mortality rate of the hunting school was extremely high. For this reason, some students would not be able to complete the hunting school's graduation mission and return to their hometown with regrets. Some students would unfortunately lose their lives. Returning to reality, Yun Jian was still the first to arrive at the designated field. Although the other students were a little slower, they were much faster than yesterday. Other than Yun Jian, the special forces of the other countries had all experienced the training of the special forces of various countries. Their foundation was naturally deeply rooted. This group of people had to remember one thing when they came to the hunting school. They were not here to train to become special forces. Instead, they wanted to reach a higher level within the scope of the special forces and become a true powerhouse. The people who came here were not weak. When everyone gathered at the field, Jamil gave everyone a 20-kilogram combat backpack and asked them to carry it on their backs for 20 kilometers of cross-country marching training. This was a task that he had to complete every morning when he woke up. In the next 15 days, Yun Jian and her team completed more than 20 dangerous courses under actual combat conditions that they had to complete in order to enroll in the school. Yun Jian did not have an outstanding performance. On the contrary, she was one of the worst performers. This made everyone feel slightly surprised, but no one thought too much about it. On the 16th day of the hunting school, the real training officially began. Early in the morning, after completing the 20 kilograms and 20 kilometers cross-country training, Jamil brought them to an open space. After Jamil brought everyone to this empty space, he left for the time being to give everyone some time to rest. Everyone present sat on the lawn. It was rare for them to have time to rest like today. The training from the past few days had made everyone breathless, so they all sat down. Yun Jian leaned against a big tree and closed her eyes to rest. 16. 16. Chen Yang shouted at Yun Jian. Seeing this, Yun Jian opened her eyes and walked over. She saw that the field that was filled with men just now was suddenly filled with women from 211. They're good girls. They're here to bring us water. Chen Yang said to Yun Jian, after drinking a bottle of water, handed to him by 211. Obviously, Chen Yang was deceived by 211's appearance. I heard that you guys will be skydiving later. It was Mr. Buddy who told me. Now Mr. Jamil should be calling for a large helicopter to carry you guys into the air. 211 told everyone what he knew in a friendly manner. Speaking of this, 211 turned to look at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian with a nice face, "They are all men, and you are the only girl here. Can you really do skydiving? And I heard that you are still in high school. They have all been through formal training, but you are just a high school student." 211 had a worried look on his face. Skydiving? Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy, you look so delicate. Why don't you ask the instructor for a leave and not go? 211 said eagerly, but before she finished, she was interrupted by Yun Jian. Chapter 1879. Naturally, the height of parachuting here could not be higher than the 20,000 meters that Yun Jian had mentioned. However, it was indeed much more difficult than normal parachuting, or parachuting for paratroopers. As for the 20,000 meters parachuting that Yun Jian had mentioned, it was completely unheard of here, in the ears of everyone present, or even in the ears of 211. 20,000 meters, that was something that could only be achieved by breaking the world record. Furthermore, parachuting from high altitudes followed a principle. The higher the altitude, the faster the landing speed, and the higher the risk factor. Above 5,000 meters, the parachuters would generally need to bring oxygen in the cabin. Therefore, the 20,000 meters that Yun Jian mentioned stunned 211 and the rest of the team, unable to snap back to reality for a long time. Yun Jian's words had stunned everyone present. 211's face darkened after hearing it. Yun Jian's words were obviously a slap to her face. She was going against her. You're talking big again. Other than talking big, can you Z people show me some real skills? Just as everyone was stunned, a sarcastic male voice was heard. The man who had spoken was My Dan, the one who had tried to warn Yun Jian at the beach of the 6-star Empire Hotel in Brunei, but had been slapped in the face. That day, Yun Jian had dismantled a time bomb left behind by the black-robed man in front of everyone. Her ability had indeed stunned My Dan, so much so that My Dan had not spoken after that. However, My Dan was not someone to be trifled with. The slap that day had been given by Yun Jian. Being slapped by the young lady had caused My Dan to be ridiculed by his friends these days. My Dan naturally had to take revenge for this. My Dan's words made Yun Jian glance at him from the corner of her eyes. However, Yun Jian did not say much. These are positioning trackers. Put them in your pockets, and immediately board a large helicopter to parachute. The landing point will be in this large forest. However, to make it easier for us to use the GPS to find you, don't lose this positioning tracker. Seeing that Yun Jian didn't say anything, My Dan wanted to help 211 provoke Yun Jian with words, but she was interrupted by Jamil, who had just left and returned. Parachuting from a high altitude could lead to accidents. For example, what if one was too nervous to open the parachute and fell to his death? All of these accidents constantly reminded everyone that they had to be prepared at all times. Even if something really happened, they should at least retrieve the corpse, right? At this time, the GPS tracker would be very useful. After all, this forest was very big, and even if they landed safely, they might not be safe. When everyone heard this, they all stuffed the tracking chip that Jamil had given them into their pockets. At this moment, after receiving the equipment, the group of people boarded a large helicopter. Under the instructions of the pilot, everyone equipped with parachutes sat in the large helicopter, and the helicopter immediately took off. Jamil stood on the ground, narrowed his eyes, and looked up at the large helicopter that was gradually flying into the sky. At some point in time, Lin Wei walked over from not far away. Jamil glanced at Lin Wei, then curled his lips and said, "How many of them do you think will be able to walk out of the forest alive?" Landing successfully from a high altitude was only a small step. The people from various countries who came here were all eyeing each other covetously. How could they guarantee that they would be safe after finding such an opportunity to be alone? That girl won't die. Lin Wei only said this one sentence. It was not only because Yun Jian was the young madam of his and Hun organization. The reason why Lin Wei was even more convinced of this point was that he also saw in Yun Jian that overlapped with his memories. She was also the strongest woman in history who had been trained by him, and no one could surpass her. Chapter 1880. Lin Wei did not have much contact with Yun Jian. Ever since CE went to Longmen City diligently, Lin Wei was mostly in an Hun group. Even if he had bumped into Yun Jian a few times, it was not more than 5 times. Out of these 5 times, the number of times he spoke was pathetically low. Or perhaps he had never spoken to Yun Jian at all. CE knew that Yun Jian was slaying God, so he would not spread the news. Even if Snow Eagle, Adam, or Mo Sun knew about Yun Jian's identity, they would not mention it easily. This was why Lin Wei was clueless about Yun Jian's background. He only knew that Yun Jian had some dealings with the kosher mercenaries, but he would not know that Yun Jian was slaying goddesses. This is an interesting game. Let's wait and see. Jamil's lips curled into a smirk when he heard Lin Wei. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the helicopter, was already equipped with a parachute. The women in 211 did not have the right to follow. Yun Jian was currently sitting in the helicopter's cockpit. They were doing a long jump of 3,000 meters this time. It was neither too high nor too low for them. When the cockpit door opens later, I'll be the first to jump. Follow me if you're a man. My Dan's loud voice boomed. My Dan was obviously showing off his masculinity in front of everyone. Perhaps my Dan did not need to show off his masculinity in front of a bunch of men. However, there was a woman sitting in the cockpit. 16. Don't be nervous. Just relax. Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin came from Country Z with Yun Jian. Both of them were righteous people. So despite knowing Yun Jian's ability, Yun Jian's age made them unable to hold back their goodwill. Yun Jian nodded, expressing her friendliness to the two men. The helicopter is flying at 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters, 299 meters, 3,000 meters. The instructor's voice rang continuously. When they reached 3,000 meters, which was the height for landing, the helicopter stopped in the air. Planes carrying passengers at the airport were not allowed to stop suddenly. Even if they did, they had to glide down slowly. A helicopter could stop at a high altitude, but the same thing was that the propellers on the helicopter could not stop rotating. If the propellers stopped rotating, the helicopter would fall. The cockpit door is open. You can parachute now, the instructor said to the group with a cold gaze. At this moment, the door of the engine room opened. At an altitude of 3,000 meters, the moment the cabin door opened, a huge gust of air rushed in. My Dan planned to jump down in front of Yun Jian's face, but when the cockpit door opened, he flinched. I'll check my parachute. Seeing my Dan like this, everyone checked their parachutes. In fact, it was a little bit of panic in their hearts that was causing trouble. Who wouldn't be afraid of falling from 3,000 meters in the air? While everyone was checking their parachutes, Yun Jian strolled to the cabin door and leaped without hesitation, leading the way out. She jumped out just like that? When someone saw this, his hand that was still checking his parachute equipment stopped. He was stunned for a moment before he asked, unable to react in time. This little girl is very courageous, someone else said. Following Yun Jian were Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin from Z Country. Chen Yang and Ding Jianlin were excellent special forces soldiers and very upright. Both of them followed after Yun Jian when they saw her leap out. Although it only took a short time for people to jump out of the helicopter one after another, it wasn't like the helicopter didn't move at all. In addition, the momentum of jumping down would cause people to move aimlessly. Usually, people who landed would not bump into each other. Yun Jian put away her parachute after landing and pursed her red lips. Everything was very natural to her. Not long after landing, Yun Jian suddenly heard a rustling sound. She narrowed her eyes and stood next to a tree. The owner of the sound was no stranger to her. It was Buddy in 211. Mr. Buddy, according to the GPS, she should be nearby. Chapter 1881. After Buddy finished speaking to 211, he suddenly shushed him. Then he said to 211 in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Stop talking. She should be nearby. She's not far away. Only the two of them could hear what Buddy said to 211. However, Yun Jian's ears were very sensitive. Even if Buddy deliberately lowered his voice to the lowest decibel, Yun Jian could still hear what he said to 211. After 2 seconds of silence, Buddy's voice rang out again. Did you give her the water? Of course. I saw her drink it with my own eyes. 211 said confidently. Yun Jian had indeed drunk the water that 211 gave her. If she hadn't, how could she have seen through 211's scheme so clearly? Very good. This way, she won't be able to resist me. I have a feeling that she must be nearby. Hurry up and find her for me. Buddy kicked 211. His sharp eyes seemed to have seen Yunjian's hot body. His face darkened as he took the GPS device. It was obvious that Buddy was able to get the GPS device because he had done something with Jamil. Master Buddy, the GPS device is reacting. She's there. 211 suddenly pointed to a spot and said to Buddy in surprise. After destroying Yunjian, there was hope. The sky gradually darkened. This high-altitude parachute jump was not a competition, nor was it a competition. It was simply a training exercise for them to perform high-altitude parachute jumps. After everyone landed, Jamil sent people into the forest one by one to look for Yunjian, according to the GPS device's instructions. After everyone was found, Jamil frowned. 16 is missing? Jamil asked. Lin Wei stood at the side unhurriedly. She was the first one to jump down. Someone added at this time. Follow the GPS device's instructions, and follow me to look for her. Jamil frowned again and led everyone, including the few women who were with 211, into the forest. By the time they found the GPS device's chip according to the GPS device's instructions, it was almost dark. When the crowd found their destination, they were all shocked by the scene before them. They saw Buddy and 211 were tied to a tree by parachutes. They were naked and hung from the tree. Leaves were stuffed in their mouths, so they couldn't speak. On the ground facing the two of them, there were many razor blades scattered all over the place. If Buddy and 211 broke free and fell to the ground, they would be pierced by these blades. Even if they didn't die, they would definitely be half dead. Hence, Buddy and 211 hugged each other and didn't dare to move. The moment he saw Jamil, Buddy even started moaning. Pfft! What's going on? Are you having sex in the air? Instructor Jamil, your subordinate is really hardcore. Someone mocked Buddy while laughing at Jamil. Soon, everyone burst into laughter. No one saw it, but when Lin Wei saw this scene, his brows furrowed even tighter. Strangely, this scene overlapped with what that woman had done in his memory. Instructor Jamil, your subordinate wanted to offend me, and even got this woman to drug me, but unfortunately, I'll return her to you. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and walked out of the darkness. In front of everyone, she spoke rudely to Jamil. SS. Just as everyone was laughing and Buddy was so mad that he wanted to kill Yunjian, even 211 felt the same way. Lin Wei's voice rang out. Hearing Lin Wei's voice, Yunjian wasn't surprised. Her eyes flashed and curved slightly. Master Lin Wei, you. Jamil looked at Lin Wei in confusion. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Lin Wei looked at Yunjian, as if he wanted an answer. In front of everyone who was so confused that their breathing slowed, he spoke again. This time, it wasn't a question, but an affirmation. Chapter 1882. Your SS was as plain as have you eaten today. Everyone's first reaction was not to wonder who SS was. Instead, Lin Wei was known for being a man of few words. Even if something big happened, he would not bother to repeat the same thing twice. Of course, Yiling was an exception. Yunjian, on the other hand, was just a student in a hunting school. Everyone knew that once a student entered a hunting school, they would have to start all over again, no matter how good their past achievements were, or how strong their abilities were. For Lin Wei to ask Yunjian the same thing twice, one could imagine that even if Lin Wei was expressionless, he must have 1,000 questions in his mind. SS. Master Lin Wei, you said she's SS. Why does this title sound so familiar? Jamil stroked his chin and began to think. Slaying God was the one who was known worldwide, and SS was just a nickname given to slaying God by some people. If one was an international racer, the title SS would be known worldwide. However, as a Secret Service assassin, there were only a handful of people who could call Yunjian SS. Of course, many people in the underworld knew the meaning of SS, and the meaning of SS being slaying God. However, it was obvious that the people here did not know the direct relationship between SS and slaying God. Yunjian was not surprised that Lin Wei could recognize her. She merely narrowed her eyes. And Master Jamil, don't care about SS, please save me first. Save me. Barty, who was tied to a tree with a parachute together with 211, dared not move as he was afraid that the razor blades would stab him, begged Jamil for help. What SS? At this moment, no one present knew who he was. Jamil was about to recall it, but after hearing Buddy's words, he immediately forgot about it. Hurry up and put him down. Jamil looked at Barty with disdain and ordered another subordinate beside him. Jamil's subordinate obeyed and quickly put Barty and 211 down. Lin Wei frowned when he saw that Yun Jian did not reply to him. Lin Wei was not stupid. Even if Yun Jian did not say anything, he already knew Yun Jian's identity. He really didn't expect that after going around in circles, the subordinate he was most proud of in the past would actually become his young madam. The corner of Lin Wei's mouth twitched. All right, since we've found him, let's all go back. We'll continue training tonight. Jamil waved his hand. However, just as Jamil finished speaking, Yun Jian's words rang out. Her words resounded throughout the entire place. Chief Instructor, your people are delusional enough to offend me. Are you going to let it go just like that? After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was shocked, especially my Dan, who had wanted to make a move on Yun Jian from the very beginning. All the surrounding students were stunned. What was this place? This was a hunting school. No matter how much Jamil disliked Buddy, he was still Jamil's subordinate. And Yun Jian actually dared to publicly ask Jamil to punish Buddy? Was she joking? Did he want to die? Are you ordering me around? Jamil suddenly stopped smiling. He cast a sidelong glance at Yun Jian. The sinister look on his face made everyone present slightly fearful. Don't you know that the people who dared to order me around have already gone to see the King of Hell? Jamil's sinister face instantly changed. He suddenly glared at Yun Jian. His voice unconsciously rose as he said something that made everyone's hearts tighten. Everyone's hearts tightened. They were clearly shocked by Jamil's sudden change in tone. Is that so? What a coincidence. The people who wanted to offend me have already. Yun Jian looked into Jamil's eyes. She spoke in front of everyone without the slightest bit of fear. Yun Jian suddenly paused. She cast a sidelong glance at Buddy. However, under everyone's shocked gazes, Yun Jian flipped her right hand. A butterfly knife suddenly appeared. The butterfly knife twirled between her fingers and suddenly flew toward Buddy. When the naked Buddy saw this, he was so frightened that he threw himself to the side. However, this butterfly knife seemed to have known where he was going to dodge. It actually sliced through Buddy's throat at a frightening speed, killing him on the spot. The butterfly knife flew past Buddy's throat, pierced a tree and bounced back. In front of all the students, including 211 and the group of women, who were in cahoots with 211, Yun Jian easily caught it in her hand again. This process happened in 2 seconds. When Lin Wei saw this, his eyes flashed. This move, however, in front of everyone, Yun Jian's lips curled up slightly. Everyone was terrified. They couldn't believe that she had the ability and speed to kill Buddy with a butterfly knife in just 2 seconds. At this moment, Yun Jian followed up with 2 terrifying words. Chapter 1883. With that, Buddy's body fell to the ground at a speed that everyone present could see clearly. With a bang, his body fell to the ground, causing everyone's hearts to tremble slightly. Coupled with the shocking saber technique and speed that Yun Jian had just displayed in front of everyone. In 2 seconds, not only did she kill Buddy, but she also bounced the saber back and held it in her hand. One had to know that Buddy was not weak. As the subordinate of the hunting school's chief instructor Jamil, how could Buddy be weak? Furthermore, Buddy was Jamil's subordinate. He had seen Yun Jian attack Buddy with his own eyes, and Jamil had protected Buddy just now. If Jamil could stop it, he would definitely not watch Buddy's throat be slit by Yun Jian. However, the problem now was that Yun Jian had killed Buddy in front of Jamil. Her skills were so powerful that no one could see it with the naked eye. Jamil did not even have the chance to react. He could only watch as Buddy fell to the ground. This speed of the saber, this killing move, not only did everyone present widen their eyes in shock, it also made Jamil, who had always been mysterious and calm, reveal a dumbfounded expression. Ah! And the group of women in 211's group screamed in fright. This group of women pinched their throats and screamed from the bottom of their hearts. The group of women in 211's group was different from Yiling. They had walked the opposite path from Yiling a long time ago, to be the slaves of this group of men. As for Yiling, she had grown up in the midst of killing and surviving. She had become a member of 211. All of these women combined were not as strong as Yiling alone. However, this was only when facing the group of women in 211. Compared to the others in the hunting school, Yiling's strength was still not enough. Although 211 and the others, who were even weaker than Yiling, were used to seeing dead people, when they saw Buddy die in front of them, they were still so frightened that their bodies trembled. It was as if they had seen some kind of horrifying scene. Of course, 211 was the one who was most afraid. After all, 211 was also one of the people who came up with the plan for Buddy's death. Jamil's face darkened, but he did not say anything. He also did not show the grief of losing his subordinate. It had to be said that Yunjian's strength was too shocking. This kind of power, even he, Jamil, would not be able to resist in the hands of Yunjian. She was such a young girl, yet she possessed such a terrifying strength. Why did someone like her come to the hunting school? Her strength couldn't be greatly expanded in the hunting school, could it? Jamil frowned. Suddenly, the group of women from 211 screamed and cried out in fear. It was like a piece of music, but it was so hoarse that they couldn't even speak clearly. It was very unpleasant to the ears. When the surrounding men heard the screams of the women in 211, they couldn't help but frown. But they didn't say anything. Shut up. Just as the screams of the women from 211 rang out, a soft shout suddenly rang out. These two words were filled with decisiveness, causing the women from 211 to shut their mouths in fright. They saw the owner of the voice holding the butterfly knife that was not stained by Buddy's blood. She stood there and turned her sharp eyes to 211. The moment Yunjian spoke, 211's body trembled. His body unconsciously trembled twice, and he obediently shut up. SS. At this moment, Lin Wei's deep eyes flashed fiercely. He looked at Yunjian and spoke again in front of everyone. This time, what came out of Lin Wei's mouth was not a question, but a confirmation of a person's identity. After speaking, Lin Wei's eyes were as sharp as swords. He turned his head to look at Yunjian. In front of the group of people who were attracted by the word SS again, he spoke to Yunjian and said the longest sentence Lin Wei had ever said. Chapter 1884. As Lin Wei's voice fell, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Lin Wei, he actually said such a long sentence. One must know that Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of the Enhan organization, would never speak more than 3 sentences. Except when facing the leader of the Enhan organization. Reticent, this title was not for nothing. Lin Wei's reticence had reached a whole new level. Sometimes, when he did not want to speak, he would just ignore people. This kind of thing was very common. But just now, Lin Wei actually said such a long sentence to Yunjian. This made everyone present feel incredulous. As for what Lin Wei said, no one present understood. It was because Lin Wei had spoken to Yunjian in Russian. The only thing that made everyone present understand was that Lin Wei's words were very long. Therefore, everyone present took a deep breath. In the end, when they finally reacted, Jamil looked at Lin Wei and said respectfully and carefully to Lin Wei, "Sir Lin Wei, you spoke to this little girl in a foreign language. Can she understand?" No one present could understand Russian, including Jamil. That was why Jamil asked. Naturally, she could understand because most of Yunjian's foreign language was learned in the Enhan organization's assassin training camp. And Lin Wei, without a doubt, was the one who taught her. Yunjian was trained by Lin Wei, but Lin Wei did not say a word of this to Jamil. Seeing this, Jamil only twitched the corner of his mouth and did not dare to ask any more. Under the gaze of Maidan, Chen Yang, Ding Jianlin, and everyone else present, Yunjian smiled and replied to Lin Wei in fluent Celtic, which was also words that no one present could understand. "This is what you taught me back then." Were these two addicted to speaking in foreign languages? Lin Wei spoke to Yunjian in Russian, but Yunjian spoke to Lin Wei in Celtic. Obviously, Yunjian could understand Lin Wei's words, and Lin Wei could also understand Yun Jian's reply. But everyone present could only hear that Lin Wei's first sentence and Yun Jian's second sentence were different. In just a few sentences, the two of them had already spoken two different languages. Everyone present was shocked. Especially Yun Jian, she was so young, but had such amazing skills. What was even more frightening was that she could speak so many foreign languages. It is my honor to be able to teach young madam. Suddenly, Lin Wei bowed to Yun Jian respectfully in front of everyone's gawking eyes. This time he spoke in Polish. The people around them were shocked by Lin Wei's sudden bow to Yun Jian. Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of an Han group, was bowing to Yun Jian in front of everyone? What did this mean? Yun Jian merely smirked and did not say anything else. However, the group of people around him was in a state of shock. The two of them spoke 3 different languages at the same time. It was really. After everyone had sorted out their thoughts, Jamil turned to look at Lin Wei and asked, "Sir Lin Wei, could she be someone to you?" This sentence was a test, and also to find out the bottom line. If Yun Jian was really someone to Lin Wei, then Buddy's death would turn into smoke. On the other hand, Jamil would never let it go. Unexpectedly, in front of everyone, Lin Wei cast a sidelong glance at the people around him, then stared at Jamil with his deep black eyes. He left behind a sentence that left everyone slightly stunned. Chapter 1885. Lin Wei's words were a piece of advice and a warning. He was telling Jamil and the others that Yun Jian was under the protection of the Han organization. No one was allowed to touch her. Anyone who disobeyed would be going against the Han organization. Lin Wei was usually a man of few words and would never joke. To be honest, people with low EQ like Lin Wei did not know how to joke at all. Hence, everyone knew that Lin Wei's words carried weight. And what he said was absolutely true. Jamil originally thought that Yun Jian would at most ask Lin Wei to keep an eye on her. So he was still considering if he should continue to do the questions because of Buddy. However, Jamil never expected Lin Wei to say something like that. Offending Yun Jian was equivalent to starting a war with the Han organization. Who exactly was she? How could she cause the Han organization to say something like that just because of her? The group of Special Forces soldiers around them, including the group of women from 211, were completely shocked. Everyone present had an illusion for a moment. If they offended Yun Jian, they would end up in a very bad state. After Lin Wei said that, he already thought of the miserable fate of this group of people if Yun Jian lost even a strand of hair. He retracted his gaze, turned around, and left without looking back with his right hand in his trouser pocket. Jamil swallowed hard. In the end, he didn't even dare to say a word to Yun Jian. Buddy's death naturally turned into smoke. After returning, they were supposed to undergo intensive training. However, because of this incident, Jamil directly asked all the students to return to their own dormitories. After returning to the dormitory, Yun Jian did whatever she was supposed to do. She showered, ate and practiced at night. 3 days later, Yi Ling, who had been locked in Lin Wei's room for 3 days without going out, finally heard the news of Buddy's death. For some reason, Yi Ling heaved a sigh of relief. God knew how she had spent the past 3 days. Being in the same room with a man who wanted her to give birth to his child all the time. These days, Yi Ling didn't dare to sleep on the same bed as Lin Wei. At first, Lin Wei slept on the bed while Yi Ling hid in a corner of the room. Seeing this, Lin Wei grabbed Yi Ling and placed her on the bed. Seeing Yi Ling's resistance, Lin Wei, who didn't intend to do anything, directly put his hand around Yi Ling's waist and touched her plump bottom. Lust ignited, Lin Wei flipped over on top. In the end, Yi Ling resisted with all her might. When Yi Ling's jacket was half taken off, Lin Wei stopped. He hugged her and whispered, "Sleep." Then he closed his eyes. Yi Ling did not dare to resist. After hearing about Buddy's death, Yi Ling heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Buddy was dead, he would no longer be a threat when he returned to the female dormitory. The only person who had been spying on her was Buddy. Today, Yi Ling stayed in Lin Wei's room and waited for him to come back. She wanted to clarify things with Lin Wei. Buddy was already dead, so she didn't have to be afraid anymore. So, everything that had happened before could be forgotten. With a creak, the door opened, and Lin Wei's handsome face was the first to appear. Yi Ling stood up from the bed, but she put her hands behind her back helplessly. Her beautiful sky-blue eyes stared at Lin Wei without blinking. Being stared back at by Lin Wei, Yi Ling blinked her eyes guiltily. Her long and narrow eyelashes fluttered slightly. Looking at her, she was extremely cute. Can I go back and stay with Yin Jian? Seeing Lin Wei stare at her, Yi Ling felt a chill run down her spine. She didn't dare to mention what she had already thought of to say to Lin Wei. She suddenly opened her mouth helplessly. Forget it. She would go back to the female dormitory first. When Lin Wei came looking for her again, she would explain everything and make everything clear at once. Also, he had to apologize to him properly for using him. Chapter 1886. Lin Wei's words never left any room for rejection. Yi Ling blinked her eyes. Suddenly, tears flashed in her sky-blue eyes. What's wrong? Seeing a trace of tears suddenly flash across Yi Ling's eyes, even a person as calm as Lin Wei couldn't help but feel a little helpless. It was just that Lin Wei didn't show his helplessness. I miss home. All of you are forcing me. I want to go home. I haven't been home for 10 years. Other than my father and mother, no one is really good to me. I don't even have the right to choose here. Yi Ling's sky-blue eyes suddenly flickered up and down. She blinked. She didn't know why, but she felt a lump in her throat and wanted to cry. Yi Ling was 19 years old this year, 6 years younger than Lin Wei. Lin Wei was 25 years old this year. Yi Ling was spoiled since she was young, so she developed a princess temper that wasn't easy to coax. She would argue with her parents if she didn't like it. She would act like her parents were harming her. It could be considered a very vile type. Yi Ling was only 9 years old back then. However, she was spoiled since she was young. The 9-year-old Yi Ling was even more exaggerated than those teenage boys and girls in their rebellious period. It was probably because people lived in different environments that some of their personalities would change. The young Yi Ling had been spoiled since she was young, so her rebellious phase was obviously much earlier than her peers. However, when she was 9 years old, Yi Ling ran away from home after arguing with her parents. She was brought to the hunting school and underwent 10 years of inhumane training. In these 10 years, Yi Ling hid in her bed and cried. She also thought about suicide. However, she survived. At this time, she finally understood how good her parents were. If you stayed at home and argued with your parents every day, you might even have the thought of never seeing your parents again for the rest of your life. Therefore, many students wanted to choose a place as far away from home as possible when they were choosing a university. That way, they would never see their parents again. However, when a person left their parents to live outside and saw the other side of society, they would crazily think of their parents. A university student, no matter how bad they were, would still go home and see their parents. But Yi Ling was different. After being brought to the hunting school, Yi Ling dreamed countless times about the parents she hated the most when she was young. They were the parents she wanted to see the most after experiencing the heartlessness of others in the hunting school. But even such a slim hope was too extravagant. All these years, Yi Ling had suppressed her immense pain in the bottom of her heart and displayed her most tenacious side in front of everyone, because she believed that as long as she survived, she would be able to see her parents again. He couldn't die. He absolutely could not die. He absolutely could not give in. It was with this hope that Yi Ling managed to survive. Those who had never experienced this feeling would never understand that when faced with the cruelty of the world and the true disappointment of others, the easiest thing to think of was still the parents that you hated the most and were the most impatient to nag in your ears every day. Yi Ling didn't know what was wrong with her today. She actually squatted down and hugged herself while crying. She couldn't help but vent her emotions in front of Lin Wei. Her tears were like water flowing out of a faucet, flowing non-stop. Lin Wei's heart couldn't help but tighten when he saw this. Reaching out, Lin Wei grabbed Yi Ling's wrist and pulled her up from the floor into his warm embrace. I won't force you anymore. I'll make you bear children for me willingly. Lin Wei would never change the person he had set his mind on. In the female dormitory, Yun Jian was lying on the bed when the door was knocked lightly with a stone. Yun Jian opened the door and walked out to see Phantom Shadow waving at her from a grove not far away from the dormitory. Ce had been writing her a letter almost every day recently, and the content was unbearable. Yun Jian walked toward the grove, taking the envelope from Phantom Shadow as usual. Yun Jian opened it and saw the familiar handwriting. Xiao Jian, I miss you so much. I really want you to be bedridden for 365 days. Yun Jian blushed at the sight. Just as Yun Jian was about to turn back to the dormitory, a familiar fresh scent came from behind Yun Jian, as someone hugged her from behind. He hugged Yun Jian from behind and leaned down to her ear, smelling the scent that he was so familiar with and loved so much. He was instantly mesmerized. Chapter 1887. It was around 9 o'clock in the evening. Today's training had ended early. Usually, training would end at 11 o'clock. She would wake up at 5 o'clock the next day, so she only had 6 hours of sleep. Today's training had ended early, so Yun Jian took a shower and rested in the dormitory. It was the last part of autumn, so the wind at night was very strong and cold. She had to wear 2 layers of clothes during the day to not feel cold. At night, she had to wear a thick layer of clothes. When Yun Jian heard someone knocking on the door with a rock, she knew that it was Phantom Shadow. Since Phantom Shadow was here, he must have been sent by Ce to deliver a letter. Thus, Yun Jian only put on a shirt and came out. After receiving the letter, Yun Jian hurriedly opened it. After reading the letter, she was hugged from behind by a pair of large hands. When she smelled the familiar scent, Yun Jian was suddenly moved. At this moment, Ce had his arms around Yun Jian. He bent his lean back slightly and pressed his lips against the side of Yun Jian's neck. It was as if he was smelling the fragrance that belonged to her. His heavy breathing hit Yun Jian's neck. Yun Jian's body trembled slightly from the numbness. At her abdomen, Ce's arms around Yun Jian tightened. He suddenly felt that she was wearing very thin clothes. Thus he frowned slightly and said in a low voice, "Why are you wearing so much? Why are you wearing so little? What if you catch a cold?" His heart would ache. Ce didn't say the last sentence. "I'm here to get the letter you sent me. After I get it, I'll go back to my room." Yun Jian reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She pursed her red lips. "Next time, you're not allowed to wear so little." As Ce spoke, he let go of Yun Jian's hands from behind and took off his jacket to drape it over her body. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. She didn't know why, but when he said this, her heart felt warm. Ce hadn't rushed over in the middle of the night just to see her. To be honest, ever since Yun Jian entered the hunting school, he knew her every move like the back of his hand. Including the fact that Yun Jian was now living alone in her own dorm. 3 minutes later, Yun Jian led Ce, who already had a plan, into her dorm. Once they entered the room, Ce locked the door that was not exactly secure. As he wished, Ce walked into the dormitory that used to have 4 people. Now, there was only Yun Jian. As soon as he entered the dormitory, Ce's wolf nature erupted. Pressing Yun Jian onto the bed, Ce pressed himself on top of her. His breathing was slightly heavy. He had been separated from Yun Jian for a period of time. Although it had been less than a month, it had been more than 20 days. Once a man had sex, his mind would be filled with bad ideas. Ce was no exception. "Don't. This is..." Yun Jian was about to resist Ce when Ce leaned over and kissed her little mouth. "It's in the room. It's in the room. She's hiding a man. I saw it with my own eyes. Master Jamil, I've even told you about this. You must protect me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die like Master Barty and die without knowing why." Outside the room, a large group of people was led by 211 to the door of Yun Jian's dormitory. Even Lin Wei had been called over. But looking at Lin Wei's expression, it seemed like it had nothing to do with him. Inside the room, Yun Jian was being pressed down by Ce. Before she could do anything, there was a sound from outside the door. Yun Jian blinked. Ce narrowed his eyes. His most beautiful moment had been interrupted. At this moment he had the urge to kill someone. Outside the room, 211 had already led everyone to the door. She pointed at Yunjian's dormitory aggressively and said to Jamil and Linwei, "Master Linwei, Master Jamil, 16 must be hiding a wild man in the room. She must be unable to stand the loneliness. Just now, I saw a man follow her into the dormitory with my own eyes. Our hunter school can't keep such people. Even if he's a student, we can't forgive him." Chapter 1888. The more she spoke, the more she felt that she was powerful. At night, the women in the dormitory next door were already lying in bed, and 211 was a snobbish woman to begin with. The status of 211's women in the hunting school was no different from prostitutes. Unlike Yi Ling, 211's women in the hunting school could be trampled on by any man. Perhaps other women felt that they had fallen and could just accept it with open thighs. But 211 was different. 211 would learn to climb up. She would climb up the social ladder and cling to people with higher status. Just like Buddy from before, he was someone 211 wanted to cling to. 211 knew how to use her body to seek benefits or to obtain protection. Tonight, 211 had just climbed to a new height. After finishing a few rounds of unspeakable things with that man, she rushed back late at night and saw Yunjian walking into her dormitory with a man. Now that Yi Ling was taken away by Master Linwei, this was something everyone knew. This meant that Yunjian was the only one in the dormitory where Yi Ling used to live. When 211 saw Yunjian walk into her dormitory with a man, she felt a burst of excitement. The hunting school system was very strict. Students were absolutely not allowed to have an affair with anyone. So when she saw that a man actually followed Yunjian into Yunjian's dormitory, 211 immediately ran to find Jamil, Linwei, and everyone else to come over. Halfway through, she also alarmed the people who were this year's hunting school students like Yunjian. After being called over by 211's exaggerated words, everyone followed. 211's words were very loud. At this moment, standing in the female dormitory, she attracted the women in the other dormitories. At this time, the women were all waiting to see Yunjian make a fool of herself. Hearing 211's words, Linwei's eyes flashed slightly. Before Jamil could speak, Linwei said, "She won't steal a man. Except for the young master. Master Linwei, you know her. If you want to side with her, then I have nothing to say. But is she treating our hunting school's rules like child's play?" NB211 stood beside Jamil and used his body to touch Jamil while saying these words at the same time. Jamil was not someone who could be seduced by beauty. He pushed 211 away and was about to speak when the door to Yunjian's dormitory opened. Yunjian appeared in front of everyone. Not long after her shower, she put on a tight-fitting outfit with a jacket on the outside and a pair of black, tight-fitting trousers that accentuated her perfect figure to the fullest. At this time, Yunjian gave people a kind of unusual beauty. A large group of men present were dumbfounded. They couldn't help but hold their breaths. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yunjian was slightly jealous when she looked at him and sneered. "Yes, there is a man." She actually admitted it. 211's eyes bulged. Just as 211 was about to use this as a pretext to make a fuss, he saw Yunjian's cold smile. Just as 211 thought Yunjian would say something to refute him, Yunjian flipped her hand, and actually, she took out the butterfly knife again. Butterfly knife. The scene of Buddy's death was forever engraved in 211's heart. 211 was so frightened that his face changed. He quickly hid behind Jamil. Jamil's expression changed. Although Linwei warned him that Yunjian was protected by an Hun, Jamil still wanted to teach Yunjian a lesson. Otherwise, Yunjian would be so arrogant. Was she trying to climb over his head? Ahem. Since you have already admitted that you are hiding a man in your dormitory, then according to the rules of our hunting school students, who are not allowed to have illicit relations with others during training, you. Just as Jamil said this, he saw a tall figure flash out of Yunjian's dormitory door. That person had a breathtakingly handsome face. It was as if this world couldn't nurture such a handsome person. Everyone present took in a deep breath. For a moment they were in a daze. This person really existed in this world. They saw that after Ce walked out of the door, his eyes were fixed on Yun Jian. He walked to Yun Jian in front of everyone, and reached out to hold Yun Jian's small hand. Just as everyone was shocked by the picturesque scene in front of them, Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. Suddenly Lin Wei, who was standing beside Jamil, stood in front of Ce and bowed slightly. Just like that, he respectfully addressed Ce in front of everyone. Chapter 1889. Lin Wei suddenly took a step forward and bowed at the unbelievably handsome man. His low exclamation made everyone's jaws drop. Jamil was so shocked that he blanched, unable to snap back to reality for a long time. Young head? A man that Lin Wei addressed as young head. A man that even Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of an Han group, had to treat with respect. Jamil was not the only one who was stunned. All the students around, including 211 who called Ce a wild man, were stupefied. There was only one doubt in everyone's mind. Who was this man who made Lin Wei lower his head? Amen. Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and played with it gently in his large palm. His gaze was fixed on her throughout, but he replied to Lin Wei coldly. Ce rubbed Yun Jian's soft hand. He did not look up at the crowd, but his innate aura forced everyone to stare at him. After a moment of silence, Ce spoke. His nonchalant manner made it seem like nothing in the world could catch his eye other than Yun Jian. I heard that someone called me a wild man just now. As Ce spoke, he brought Yun Jian's hand to his large palm and interlocked their fingers. His Xiao Jian was beautiful. She was beautiful everywhere. She was beautiful, her hands were beautiful too. Xiao Jian was the prettiest under him. If Yun Jian knew that Ce was thinking about this right now, she would probably give Ce a good thrashing. There was no need to guess what Ce was thinking. Since Ce had said that, it meant that he was furious. What angered Ce the most was not that he was a wild man. It was that 211 had just said that his Xiao Jian was hiding a wild man? Did that mean that Yun Jian was hiding another man other than him? Of course, Ce believed that Yun Jian would never do such a thing. In spite of it, 211 purposely made everyone think that Ce was annoyed to hear it. Young master, I'll get rid of the trash now. Even the usually calm Lin Wei couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat after hearing Ce's words. After Lin Wei finished speaking, he directly took out a pistol from his belt and pointed the muzzle at 211. No one connected the fact that Lin Wei addressed Ce as young master with the possibility that Ce was the leader of an Han organization. Lin Wei only listened to an Han's leader. But how could the leader of an Han be here? How could it be Ce? After all, Ce was still young. The people around them were all old foxes. Usually, the more ordinary a person was, the more realistic their guesses were. However, these old foxes would only make things more complicated. Could it be that the man standing beside Yun Jian was a reclusive subordinate of an Han's leader? His position was higher than the 4 leaders of an Han organization? Even if it was an illusion, no one would link the identity of an Han's leader to Ce. The more experienced they were, the more they would overthink, and the further the truth would be from them. Ah, gun. Gun. Ah, don't kill me. When 211 saw that Lin Wei had pointed the gun at her, she shuddered in fear and turned to run. 211 did not expect that she had only wanted to embarrass Yun Jian today, so that she would be rewarded for reporting the incident. However, she had never thought that she would actually bring about a fatal disaster. However, before 211 could run out, Lin Wei's gun hit 211's heart with a bang, not missing by a hair's breadth. The surrounding people were so shocked that they sucked in a deep breath. The group of women who were with 211 saw 211's eyes widen and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. They were so scared that they didn't dare to move. Dead. 211 dead. Compared to the people around him, Jamil's thoughts were much more meticulous. He had already guessed half of Ce's identity. Just as Jamil was unable to obtain a definite answer, Lin Wei suddenly turned to look at Jamil. He gave Jamil and the people around him a solemn warning. Chapter 1890. On the ground, 211's corpse reminded everyone that she had paid the price of her life for provoking this handsome man. The people around them didn't think much of it, but Jamil's eyes were wide open. Wasn't Lin Wei's words hinting to him indirectly? This handsome man, whom Lin Wei respectfully addressed as young master, was the leader of Anhun. Oh my god, the leader of Anhun. He actually had an affair with his cohort student. In addition, Lin Wei had warned Jamil that if he provoked Yun Jian, Anhun would definitely not stand by and watch. Jamil completely understood why Lin Wei had used such a solemn tone to warn him. That was because Yun Jian was Anhun's leader's woman. This truth was too scary. So scary that after knowing the truth, Jamil didn't even dare to reveal a single word of it to anyone present. Jamil believed that if the identity of Anhun's leader was revealed, he would definitely die a horrible death. This was a secret that was completely unspeakable. Jamil, who knew the truth, was so scared that his face turned pale. At this moment, even if Lin Wei stood up and said that Ce wasn't Anhun's leader, Jamil wouldn't believe it. It wasn't just because of the flaw that was revealed earlier. This time, Lin Wei's words were broken by 3 sentences again. Other than Yun Jian, Lin Wei would only speak more than 3 sentences in front of one person. That person was Anhun's leader. Thinking about it this way, it wasn't so unbelievable that Lin Wei had spoken more than 3 words in front of Yun Jian. After all, Yun Jian was Anhun's leader's woman. Hurry up and clean up this trash. Jamil didn't dare to say anything else. He pointed at 211's corpse and shouted at his subordinate beside him. This subordinate quickly found someone to take care of this matter. I don't know if someone from Anhun is here. I'm sorry for offending you just now. May I invite you to my place? Jamil walked over and looked at Ce respectfully. Because he was a little scared, he stuttered a little. All the students around, including the group of women who were with 211 and Gemel's subordinates, didn't have Gemel's brain. Therefore, they only thought that Ce was someone from Lin Wei, or someone with a higher status in an Anhun organization that the secular world didn't know about. Who would have guessed that Ce was the leader of Anhun? Jamil was probably the only one who could guess this. Jamil, who knew the truth, was really scared to death. His body was trembling, and the strong aura he had when he first appeared was completely dispersed in front of Ce. The way Jamil invited Ce was as if he was afraid that Ce would reject him. However, just when Jamil thought that Ce would not agree, Ce suddenly grabbed Yun Jian's small hand and finally turned her gaze to Jamil. That pair of sharp and deep black eyes stared at Jamil, causing him to feel a wave of panic. The young master has agreed. Why aren't you leading the way? Lin Wei glared at Jamil and spoke concisely. Yes, yes, yes. Hearing this, Jamil quickly led the way. That sudden change in his respectful attitude made everyone present feel like they were hallucinating for a moment. Chapter 1891. No one dared to say anything when Jamil asked Ce to leave. Yun Jian did not tag along either. It was Ce who did not want Yun Jian to tag along. Yun Jian could tell that Ce's gaze when he turned to look at her had a hint of lust. It was like he was plotting something in secret. Before he left, Ce bent down and whispered something that only the 2 of them could hear. Xiao Jian, wait for me tonight. Hearing Ce's words, Yun Jian was reminded of certain embarrassing scenes. Blushing, Yun Jian pushed Ce, who was leaning against her, away. It was only then that Ce flashed a handsome smile and left with Jamil. After being asked to leave by Jamil, Ce came back around 10 o'clock. However, Yun Jian did not let him have any meat tonight. Ce was very uncomfortable about it, but he did not force Yun Jian at all. It was just that the soundproofing here was terrible, so bad that, even if one went to the washroom, the people in the dormitory next door could hear them doing so. This was similar to the time when he went to his grandpa's house in the countryside with Chun Sini. Chun Sini's cousin could be heard farting in the room next door. It was mysteriously similar. Moreover, there were many women in the room next door. If Ce did something weird to her, how could he not be noticed? Hence, Ce could only hold back his desire. In fact, he wished that everyone knew that his Xiao Jian was only his. The next morning, when the sun was still up, Yun Jian, and the others did not even have time to do their morning exercises before Jamil called them to a corner to begin the next round of training. All of you are special forces from all over the world. You must master survival skills in the wild. So from today onwards, all of you will undergo a month-long wilderness survival training. In this month, all of you must use your own hands to search for food. Before entering the forest, I'll give each of you a dagger. Other than that, no one is allowed to bring anything else. My request is that even if you die in the forest, you're not allowed to retreat. I won't give you any tools to call for help. It will only increase the difficulty of your survival in the wild. Now let's go, Jamil said in a simple and clear manner. Survival in the wild was an essential skill for the group of people present. If it was the previous survival training that Yunjian encountered, they would definitely be given a rescue tool, or something to give up halfway before entering the forest. Here, however, Jamil would not give them the chance to give up. If you can't make it, you have to die. This kind of training could increase a person's fighting spirit by 100-fold. There was no room for retreat, so they could only move forward. What Yunjian could not understand was why Ce was with her. Moreover, he was still holding her hand as they walked in this place where wild beasts roamed freely, as if they were admiring the scenery. Walala. Not long after they entered the forest, it started raining. Without a word, Ce took off his jacket and draped it over her head to shield her from the rain before holding her hand to look for a shelter nearby. There's a cave over there. Xiao Jian, let's go hide from the rain, Ce said as he tugged Yunjian's hand and led her to a large cave. The cave was rather spacious, and the entrance was covered by vines. Ce was skilled in survival in the wild. There was no need for Yunjian to do anything. Before long, Ce had already picked up some firewood and started a fire. Ce's jacket was wet, but Yunjian was unscathed because she had the jacket draped over her. Ce, on the other hand, was drenched from the rain earlier. Yunjian could tell that the clothes and jacket he was wearing were all bought by her. Their colors had already faded. With a squint, Yunjian suddenly leaned her head on Ce's shoulder. She thought that she was blessed. Xiao Jian. Not long after Yunjian rested her head on Ce's shoulder, she heard his heavy breathing. In the next second, Yunjian felt the world spin around her. He flipped over and pinned her beneath him, using the jacket that was not too wet to cushion her. Yunjian realized what he was going to do right away. Don't. Not here. Yunjian blushed when he was about to rip her clothes off. Xiao Jian, you're mine, Ce whispered in Yunjian's ear. He directly pressed her two eyesore hands above her head. Chapter 1892. Over there. There's a cave over there. Let's go in and hide. It's raining so heavily. Oh my God, it's raining just like that. It's almost winter, not summer. The weather is so unpredictable. Hurry, hurry. Hide in the cave. My clothes are about to get wet. There were sounds of people and hurried footsteps in the forest. Yunjian, who was pressed under Ce's body, blinked. At this moment, both she and Ce were still disheveled. But at this moment, someone came. At this moment, the sounds of people outside were already in front of the cave. Outside the cave, at the sight of this huge cave, a group of people hurriedly ran over from afar. Braving the rain, they used their own backpacks and coats to block the increasingly heavy rainwater and rushed to the front of the cave in a short while. These people were conversing in Chinese. This forest was located in the tropical rainforest of Venezuela. To be able to hear Chinese here was equivalent to meeting Z people. It was very rare. In addition, due to the altitude and water source, it was possible to have both a tropical rainforest and a wasteland in the same place. In other words, the world here looked like it was about to become a desert, but there were trees. However, the trees were very withered due to the lack of water. In such a place, even if Z people were to travel, they probably wouldn't choose the tropical rainforest of Venezuela. But it was in such a place that a group of Z people appeared here. This group of people complained as they walked to the entrance of the cave. When they reached the entrance, they were shocked and stunned. Among them, a strong male voice saw a slight flickering light in the cave and was surprised. There's firewood in this cave. Is there someone? As he said that, he led the group into the cave. Because there was firewood in the cave, they could only see the flickering light in the cave. Other than the surroundings of the firewood, everything in the cave was pitch black. But when this group of people walked into the cave, they saw that the firewood illuminated everything in the cave. Yun Jian had just tidied up her clothes when she saw this group of Z people entering the cave from the outside. This group of people saw the firewood before entering the cave and was prepared to see someone in the cave. But when they saw the people, they were still a little shocked. Yun Jian and Si didn't show any signs of shock. Si's face was full of displeasure. There's someone here. You. Hello. The leader of the group, a man who was almost 30 years old, saw Yun Jian and Si and said to Yun Jian and Si. Yun Jian and Si ignored him. Si was already lucky that she didn't kill anyone. The man did not feel awkward as he scratched his head and smiled at Yun Jian and Si. Sorry, we didn't know there were people here. It's raining outside, so we came in to take shelter. The man laughed and said, I see that the two of you are also from Z country, right? Haha, my name is Meng Zhang. They are my teammates. The man named Meng Zhang didn't realize that he had interrupted something good. He smiled at Yun Jian and Si in a friendly manner and introduced his 4 teammates. Then he looked at Yun Jian and Si and asked, By the way, are you two like us? Are you here to investigate the strange incident that happened here? Yun Jian's eyes flashed when she heard Meng Zhang's words. She asked, What incident? Brother Meng, I think they just got lost in the forest. How could they be here to investigate that incident? Instead of wasting time talking to them, it's better to pack up and continue moving forward when the rain stops. A short man standing next to Meng Zhang said. Meng Zhang looked to be close to 30 years old. He had a crew cut and was straightforward. He had the demeanor of a big brother. The short man standing beside Meng Zhang had an enigmatic expression. He glared at Yun Jian and Si, as though Yun Jian and Si were his enemies. The short man didn't look good. His nose was a little crooked, his face was thin, and his cheeks were sunken. This short man was called Wu Tianlin. Meng Zhang had 4 teammates. There were 5 of them in total. After Wu Tianlin spoke rudely, Meng Zhang reprimanded him. Then he apologized to Yun Jian and Si. Sorry, he's just like that. He has a sharp tongue, but he doesn't have a bad heart. The 5 of us are part of a small investigation team. You might not know, but not long ago, we heard that someone was suddenly swept into another world. That world is completely different from here. There are immortal cultivators there. The strong ones can even fly. Horses have wings, and there are all kinds of magical beasts. Chapter 1893. Cough. But you guys don't seem to know about this? Haha. If you guys didn't know about this, you'd think I'm joking, right? But we believe that there really is another world, so we came here to investigate. Meng Zhang scratched his head as he spoke. Indeed, this was a very far-fetched thing to say. Another world, and there were cultivators in that world. Powerful cultivators could even fly. Horses had wings, and that was the legendary Pegasus. There were also all kinds of magical beasts. That was simply a world that the author of the novel had randomly made up. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, such a place wouldn't exist at all. I feel like I'm getting more and more ridiculous. Seeing that Yun Jian and Si didn't move, Meng Zhang scratched his head, obviously thinking that Yun Jian and Si didn't believe what he said. That's right. How could an ordinary person believe such nonsense when they heard it was true? Wasn't this something that only existed in mythical television dramas? Meng Zhang felt that since Yun Jian and Si didn't come here for the same reason as them, which was to investigate that bizarre matter, as normal people, they definitely wouldn't believe it. However, just when Meng Zhang thought that Yun Jian and Si would think that he was talking nonsense, Yun Jian, who was standing in front of him, frowned. Si, on the other hand, didn't look surprised at all, as if everything was within his expectations. Meng Zhang was shocked. Yun Jian curled her lips and said, I believe you, continue. Meng Zhang hadn't seen someone like Yun Jian in a long time. She actually believed such a bizarre thing. Therefore, Meng Zhang told them everything. That was half a month ago. I heard that someone in this forest was suddenly swept into another world. After that person woke up, the world had changed, and he was surrounded by things that he had never heard of before. What kind of cultivators were that? Powerful cultivators could even fly. Horses had wings and all kinds of magical beasts. Wait, it was so bizarre that it was unimaginable. However, that person didn't know how he entered that other world. He didn't even know how he came back. After this matter was exposed, many people chose not to believe it. Of course, there was also a portion of people who believed it, such as Meng Zhang and the others. After getting this news, Meng Zhang and the others rushed here, wanting to find out what was going on. Meng Zhang wasn't clear about other things. After hearing Meng Zhang's words, Yun Jian's deep eyes narrowed again. Was there an entrance to the Yulong continent or other continents in the forest where the hunting school was located? Did this have something to do with her teacher asking her to come to the hunting school? Moreover, it was the Lord God, who was the former CE, who forcefully tore the tunnel out of the ancient tomb and into the Yulong continent. In other words, no one in the Yulong continent, the other continents, or even the deity continent could do this. Then, who opened the entrance to the continent near the hunting school? Are you looking for the entrance to that world? Yun Jian suddenly turned to look at Meng Zhang and asked. Yes. Meng Zhang nodded. Then, do you know where the entrance is? Yun Jian asked again. I have some clues, but I don't know the exact location. Meng Zhang replied. Are you guys thinking of going together? Brother Meng, you can't do that. Look at how skinny and weak they are. What if they drag us down? Yun Jian had just asked this question when Wu Tianlin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up in a serious tone. After saying this, Wu Tianlin glared at Yun Jian fiercely. Yeah, I think so too. A woman standing behind Meng Zhang spoke up at this time. This woman was also a member of Meng Zhang's scouting team. Her name was Wan Minglin. Wan Minglin looked mature and spoke steadily. Although she didn't despise Yun Jian and CE, she agreed with what Wu Tianlin said. Even if we find a way to go to the other world, with their skills, it's still a problem, whether they can protect themselves. After all, we were trained in Taekwondo. Chapter 1894. After all, Yun Jian and CE were still young. Yun Jian was still underage, and CE looked like she was in her early 20s. At this age, she should still be in high school or university, right? She should still be a student, right? Wan Minglin and Wu Tianlin were members of the scouting team, and Meng Zhang was obviously the leader of the five. Don't blame Wan Minglin and Wu Tianlin for being selfish. That was human nature. Yun Jian's tone just now clearly indicated that she was interested in another world. Therefore, Wan Minglin and Wu Tianlin immediately assumed that Yun Jian wanted to join in the fun. After all, she was a young girl. She would definitely want to join in the fun after discovering something so interesting. I do want to go. After hearing Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's words, Yun Jian didn't get angry. Instead, she said it very calmly. Although Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's words sounded like they were attacking Yun Jian, it was human nature. That was how human nature was. Let's use a simple example. For example, when you were playing a game, you would hope that you would be matched with a strong opponent, not a weak chicken. If you were matched with a weak chicken, even if you didn't directly attack them, you would definitely be unhappy after being tricked. This was human nature. Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin were people who spoke their minds. They were afraid that Yun Jian and CE would shamelessly want to go with them and drag them down. Now, after hearing Yun Jian's words, Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin were even more certain that Yun Jian wanted to shamelessly go with them. Therefore, Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's expressions became very ugly. Especially Wu Tianlin, who didn't have a filter and directly blurted out the harshest words. His words were directed at Yun Jian. Little girl, take a good look at your own weight. You still want to drag us down? You. Wu Tianlin raised his hand and walked up to Yun Jian in 2 steps. He clenched his hand into a fist, then raised it above Yun Jian's head and swung it twice. Wu Tianlin was about the same height as Yun Jian. Yun Jian was 1.65 meters tall. However, even if a man was the same height as a woman, he would still look much shorter than a woman. Standing in front of Yun Jian, Wu Tianlin felt as if he was shorter than Yun Jian. Wu Tianlin raised his hand to place his fist on top of Yun Jian's head, trying his best to raise it up. Before he could finish his words, Yun Jian's voice was heard. Wu Tianlin only felt a large, bony palm grabbing his hand and squeezing it hard. Then a long, slender leg came kicking at him. Wu Tianlin didn't even see who did it. He was kicked to the wall of the cave, and then fell to the ground. This fall almost made Wu Tianlin vomit. Tianlin. Wan Minglin's pupils shrank when she saw this. She ran over to help Wu Tianlin up. Meng Zhang didn't look down on Yun Jian and Ce from the beginning. However, when he saw the scene just now, his pupils were wide open. It was obvious that he was scared out of his wits. Everyone present saw it very clearly. Although the cave was only lit by a small fire, the moment Wu Tianlin scolded Yun Jian and wanted to clench his fists to threaten her, Yun Jian's eyes lit up when she saw Wu Tianlin. Ce, who had been silent all this time, grabbed Wu Tianlin's hand and sent him flying with a kick. His movements were so fast that he was like a ghost. Everyone at the scene was completely shocked. No one could have imagined that this young man in his early 20s would have the ability to move so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch his movements. Just as Wan Minglin helped Wu Tianlin up, Ce had already grabbed Yun Jian's small hand. His cold gaze swept across the crowd, and his cold words made everyone's hearts tremble. His words were directed at Wu Tianlin. Chapter 1895. Wu Tianlin had merely clenched his fist and placed it in front of Yun Jian. He had remained silent the entire time, and even acted as if he hadn't heard such a strange thing. Ce, who wasn't interested at all, kicked Wu Tianlin away. This action caused everyone present to go crazy. Not only did Ce make a move because of this, but what was even more shocking was that Ce actually had such valiant strength. The 5 people led by Meng Zhang were not only a small scouting team, but they had also undergone formal taekwondo training. They were also considered taekwondo experts. Although Wan Minglin admitted that there were many powerful people in this world, she never imagined that Ce, who she had looked down on and thought was just a student, would actually have such frightening abilities. Could it be that you also learned taekwondo? Or sanda? Judo? Wan Minglin was shocked by Ce's appearance just now. At the same time, she was slightly captivated by Ce's handsome looks. Wan Minglin's knowledge was probably limited to that. Wan Minglin didn't think that a powerful person could learn anything other than taekwondo, sanda, or judo. He wasn't some secret agent or assassin from the international black market. There was only so much that an ordinary person could learn. Wan Minglin was already 25 years old this year. But to be honest, Ce's handsome appearance just now had indeed attracted her. Therefore, when she asked Ce, Wan Minglin was very much looking forward to Ce's reply. Unexpectedly, Ce grabbed Yun Jian's small hand and stood to the side. He stared at her and didn't look away. Wan Minglin's mouth twitched when she saw this. What's so good about a sneak attack? Do you think you're so powerful? Wu Tianlin, who had been kicked by Ce, shouted at Ce when he regained his senses. Wu Tianlin then turned to look at Yun Jian. Perhaps it was because of what Ce had said, but Wu Tianlin didn't dare point fingers at Yun Jian. He just looked at Yun Jian and mocked her disdainfully. She's just a woman who's being protected by a man. She's nothing. Wu Tianlin was obviously a man with a very bad temper. He didn't know how to hide his emotions, but he showed his most irritable side to the public. It was very easy for such a person to get into trouble when he met someone who really played dirty. Wan Minglin was obviously smarter than Wu Tianlin. At this moment, Wan Minglin, who had witnessed Ce's skills and had developed a favorable impression of Ce, spoke up. She spoke tactfully but mercilessly to Yun Jian. You're a girl. It's good to be protected by your boyfriend. But for a girl like you, it's better not to go with him. How about this? You don't have to go. Let your boyfriend go with us. When he comes back, he can tell you about the other world. That way she could be alone with Ce. Wan Minglin's face turned red as she thought about it. Everyone thought that Yun Jian was very weak. But after Wan Minglin said this, Yun Jian ignored her. Yun Jian just leaned her head on Ce's shoulder and leaned her full breasts against Siyi's chest. She closed her eyes. Seeing Yun Jian like this, Wan Minglin clenched her fists. In the end, she couldn't say anything. She must be doing it on purpose. Siyi enjoyed this feeling very much. It was soft. An hour later, the rain stopped. Yun Jian and Siyi wouldn't stay here for long. The same went for Meng Zhang and the others. Yun Jian, Siyi, and Meng Zhang's group of 5 had just walked out. A few figures appeared on the right side of the forest. The moment Yun Jian saw them, her eyes narrowed slightly. The leader was actually my Dan, who had always been at odds with her. He had threatened her earlier, that if she dared to come to the hunting school, he would kill her. My Dan walked over step by step. He looked at Yun Jian ferociously. Suddenly, he revealed a strange smile in front of everyone. Then he looked at Yun Jian and said, 16, you're really here. Haha, I've said it before. If you dare to enter the hunting school, I'll make sure you won't be able to walk out of here. Today, I'll make it happen. Looking at my Dan's expression, it seemed like he had something to use against Yun Jian. Hearing my Dan's words, Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Minglin, and the others' pupils shrank. They exclaimed in confusion, hunting school? 16. This is... My Dan thought that Meng Zhang, Wan Minglin, and the others were Yun Jian's friends. Hence, he sneered and exaggerated the truth in front of Meng Zhang and the others. Chapter 1896. As my Dan spoke, she smiled as she took out a folding scimitar from her pocket. She held the folding scimitar in her hand and waved it lightly, then pointed the blade at Yun Jian. My Dan's actions were to intimidate Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, and Wan Minglin. It wasn't a coincidence that my Dan was able to find this place. From the moment Yun Jian and Siyi entered the forest, my Dan had already bribed the person in charge of the hunting school's wilderness survival mission to obtain the location of Yun Jian and Siyi when they were brought into the forest. If a normal person wanted to move from one location to another, it would definitely take some time to walk. When they entered the forest, it happened to be raining, and there was only one cave nearby that could shelter them from the rain. Thus, my Dan easily found Yun Jian and Siyi. Seeing Yun Jian standing with Meng Zhang and the others, she naturally thought that they were her friends. Thus, my Dan didn't directly make a move. Instead, she used threatening words to make Yun Jian lose Wan Minglin and the others as friends. Reality proved that my Dan's threat was very successful. After hearing my Dan's words, Meng Zhang and the others did indeed show a frightened expression, especially Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin, who were the most unfriendly towards Yun Jian. Wu Tianlin's face stiffened. He originally thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl, and wanted to use this to persuade Yun Jian not to follow them, so as to not be a burden. Wan Minglin, who wanted to let Siyi go with them, had an expression that couldn't be described as frightened. Hunting school student? She. This time, the one who spoke wasn't Meng Zhang or Wu Tianlin, but Wan Minglin. Wan Minglin stared at my Dan with her eyes wide open, then looked at Yun Jian, and then at my Dan. Her face was full of disbelief. Wasn't she supposed to be a weak and powerless young girl? How could she be a student of the International Hunting School? Hunting school. Basically, anyone who knew about international affairs would know what kind of school it was. Wan Minglin and the other 4 were all members of the scouting team, so they naturally knew about this. The Hunter Academy was a world-renowned training center for special forces. Every single one of the special forces soldiers who could enter the hunting school had been through hundreds of battles, had outstanding military achievements, and were the strongest among the people around them. That kind of person was a sacred and awe-inspiring expert. What Taekwondo expert? If they were to fight against them, they wouldn't even be able to touch the corner of their clothes. The gap between them was huge. Moreover, Wan Minglin and the others were not Taekwondo experts. They only knew a little Taekwondo. As for Yun Jian, she was also one of the students of the hunting school. Tsk, you don't believe me? My Dan suddenly felt that things were getting more and more interesting. He immediately assumed that Wan Minglin and her group were Yun Jian's friends, so he sneered twice. She. How could she be a student of the hunting school? Wasn't she just an ordinary girl? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Wan Minglin, on the other hand, was stunned by Yun Jian's identity. Coupled with what she had said to Yun Jian before, her expression darkened, and she looked terrible. My Dan was even more convinced that Wan Minglin was Yun Jian's friend. Look, now she was struggling, insisting that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl. Yun Jian stood not far away and listened to my Dan and Wan Minglin's conversation. She only smirked and sneered at their ability to understand, but did not stop them. At that moment, Meng Zhang's reaction was much better than Wu Tianlin and Wan Minglin's, but the expression on his face still changed slightly. Wu Tianlin also looked like he had eaten dog shit. There were a few people beside my Dan. These people were all students of the hunting school. They had been following my Dan since before entering the school. It was obvious that my Dan's position outside was higher than these people. Although they did not know my Dan's identity before entering the hunting school, they were still trying to curry favor with my Dan, even after entering here. It was obvious that my Dan was not an ordinary person, especially the bald man beside my Dan. He was burly and looked like a man who practiced martial arts. This man followed my Dan's words and thought that Wan Minglin and the others were Yun Jian's friends. Therefore he sneered a few times. In order to curry favor with my Dan, he pointed at Yun Jian in front of everyone and pretended to be smart. He sneered at Wan Minglin and said, "You don't believe me? If she wasn't a student of our hunting school, how could she be here? Today is our hunting school's outdoor survival training." Chapter 1897. After the man finished speaking, Meng Zhang, Wan Minglin, and the rest were even more frightened. If the fact that Yun Jian was a student of the hunting school was unbelievable to Wan Minglin and the rest, then the name of the Hun organization brought them endless fear. Wan Minglin and the rest were so shocked that they couldn't even speak. My Dan glanced at the man as if she was praising him. Seeing this, the man looked pleased with himself for being able to please my Dan. Just when my Dan and the man thought that they had successfully tricked Yun Jian's friend, Yun Jian wore a nonchalant smile and said softly, "That's right. Childish ignorant." After speaking, Yun Jian grabbed Si Yi's hand with her small hand and walked towards the forest at the side. When they left, Yun Jian's cold gaze didn't even look at Wan Minglin and the rest. Even a fool would be able to see it. Yun Jian and Wan Minglin were definitely not friends. Seeing this scene, my Dan instantly felt that he was extremely stupid. Just when my Dan was about to shout and chase after Yun Jian with the dagger in his hand, bang bang bang, 3 gunshots rang out. 3 bullets flew past my Dan's head, left arm, and right arm without missing a single inch. After the bullet flew past, it nailed into the tree behind my Dan and went deep into the wood. Seeing this scene, Wan Minglin, Wu Tianlin, and the rest were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground and trembled. They didn't know when Si Yi had taken out his gun and fired 3 shots at my Dan. At that moment, Si Yi had already put his gun away. He circled Yun Jian and looked at my Dan and the rest. He warned them seriously, "Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, as students of the hunting school, I will kill you all without hesitation." After speaking, he dragged Yun Jian and left. My Dan was so frightened by Si Yi's words that his body trembled slightly. He didn't know why, but he didn't dare to chase after her with his dagger in hand. Even though Wan Minglin had learned of Yun Jian's terrifying identity from my Dan, she still stared blankly at Si Yi's silhouette, wanting to chase after her. "Hey, wait!" However, before Wan Minglin could catch up to them, Yun Jian and Si Yi's figures had already disappeared. From Meng Zhang, Yun Jian learned the approximate location of the world entrance that sucked people into it. As for that world, was it the Yulong continent or some other unknown world? Yun Jian had no idea, but she had to find out. Thus, Yun Jian and Si Yi headed in the general direction that Meng Zhang had given them. At this moment in the headquarters of an Hun organization, the last time Si Luo told Luo Berry those secrets, he thought that she was pregnant and didn't dare to return to Shui Ying's place. He insisted on staying with Luo Berry. After that, Shui Ying angrily called for Mo's son to bring Si Luo back from Luo Berry's place. It had been some time since that incident. Luo Berry packed her luggage and prepared to return home from an Hun organization. Sister Luoberry, are you really going back? Can you bring Si Luo back to your place to play? Si Luo looked at Luoberry as she packed her luggage. The last time Si Luo was brought back by Xueying, he didn't stay with Luoberry, but they still played together in the day. I don't think that person at your place will agree? Luoberry laughed and rubbed Si Luo's head. She had misunderstood the last time, and thought that Xueying was being a jerk to Si Luo. Si Luo pouted after hearing that. Then I'll be leaving. Help me say goodbye to them. Luoberry rubbed Si Luo's head again, and dragged her luggage out with a heavy heart. She didn't dare to tell him. She was afraid that he would make her stay again, and she wouldn't bear to leave. Luoberry was really determined to leave this time. What was the point of following him like this? The two of them didn't belong in the same world. Who knew that Luoberry would bump into Emo-san the moment she walked out of the door with her heavy luggage? Seeing Luoberry dragging a large suitcase, Emo-san's face, which had been smiling just now, instantly fell. His handsome face darkened immediately. What are you doing? Emo-san grabbed Luoberry's wrist and asked. I want to go home. Luoberry didn't dare to look at Emo Sr. You want to leave me that badly? Emo-san tightened his grip. Luoberry didn't dare to reply. She didn't know how to lie. Just as Luoberry didn't dare to look at Emo-san, Emo-san suddenly grabbed her hand and forced her to look at him. The next second, Emo-san's words stunned Luoberry. Chapter 1898. Emo-san was considered a gentleman. If it were Adam or Xueying, one would force himself on her, while the other would force a kiss on her. They would not take the initiative. Although Emo-san's tone was very firm, he did not force himself on her, nor did he force a kiss on Luoberry. He only used very confident words to say this. The four leaders of the Hun organization had one thing in common. They all had a certain level of attachment to the things they liked. Or to put it another way, as long as it was something they liked, regardless of whether you agreed or not, you had to agree. The reason why this was so similar was because the four leaders of the Hun organization were all personally trained by CE. When they were very young, CE had told them something. He said, if you want something in this world, take it with your own strength. If you can't take it, think of a way to make it yours forever. When a person was a child, it was the easiest time to implant ideas. For example, as the saying goes, people are born with good natures. The reason why they become bad later is because of the influence of the environment and various other factors. When a person is born, they are still young. Generally, children at this age are the easiest time to be led astray. And CE's words had penetrated deep into the hearts of Adam, Emo-san, Xueying and Linwei. Therefore, the four of them had such a similar point in common. At this moment, after hearing Emo-san's words, Luoberry was so shocked that she stood rooted to the ground. After being stunned for a few seconds, Luoberry was about to speak, but she was interrupted by Emo-senator. He grabbed her wrist and pulled Luoberry into his arms. Then he did not allow Luoberry to refuse. You're the one who provoked me. I won't accept any rejection. Emo-san was afraid that Luoberry would refuse, so he quickly spoke first. Luoberry had been interested in Emo-san for a long time. Otherwise, she would not blush every time she saw him. At this moment, although Luoberry was shy and trembling, she still reached out and hugged him back. Then, her face blushed, and she said as usual, I thought you would hate me and not like me. Bathed in the sunlight, Emo-san did not wait for Luoberry to finish her sentence. He leaned over and grabbed that little mouth of hers that was talking nonsense. The tropical rainforest of Venezuela. Yun Jian and CE passed through a large forest and headed towards the place Meng Zhang had mentioned. Since Meng Zhang and company found this place, it indicated that the destination was not far away. Yun Jian and CE walked for an hour before they arrived at the place Meng Zhang had mentioned. At that time, there were suddenly many temporary houses built with simple materials in the originally uninhabited place. There were people all around the house, making it feel like a paradise. However, this was not a paradise. Everyone here, without exception, had come for the other world in the legends. Oh ho, two more little friends are here. My two little friends, this way please. Just as Yun Jian and Ce were blinking at this scene, a foreign man in his 50s or 60s walked over excitedly and waved at Yun Jian and Ce. Seeing the friendly expression on the old man's face, and the fact that Yun Jian and Ce did not know the exact situation, they followed the old man. As they walked, the old man introduced himself. "My name is John. You two can call me Old Monster John. This is the nickname that everyone gave me." As he spoke, the white-haired but energetic old man who called himself John turned to look at Yun Jian and Ce, asking with a smile, "What's the matter?" Chapter 1899. Central Continent. This was the second time Yun Jian had heard of this name. Yun Jian could not help but frown. The last time she heard of this name was from Huyan Ba, the head of the Huyan family, who used to be the #1 family in the Yulong continent. Huyan Ba had said something substantial back then. Back then, Huyan Ba had gone to the central continent and overheard a conversation between two black-robed men. The two black-robed men said that when the sorcerer god fell, the Lord God had used all his spiritual power to go against the heavenly Tao and saved him. They also said that the Lord God and the sorcerer god had gone to a place called Earth, and they had even sent people to assassinate them. They also said that if Yun Jian and Ce wanted to recover their memories as the sorcerer god and the Lord God, they had to inject powerful spiritual power into the sandalwood box. Later on, when they were absorbing the sandalwood box's memories, someone had interrupted them. Yun Jian believed that all of this was done by the mysterious person. The most important thing now was that since the black-robed men had appeared in the central continent, was the mysterious person from the central continent as well. Moreover, her teacher had asked her to come to the hunter school to find him. Did this mean that her teacher was also from the central continent? Yun Jian's eyes flashed. Her intuition told her that she had to go to the central continent. Little friend, little friend, little friend. Hardadef waved his hand in front of Yun Jian's eyes a few times before he managed to get Yun Jian's attention. Yun Jian had not recovered from the shock. She only raised her eyes slightly to look at Hardadef. Haha, from the looks of it, the two of you probably don't know the details. Have you heard of someone who was accidentally sucked into another world and then mysteriously returned here? Hardadef was the first to speak. Yun Jian nodded. I've heard of it. Ce stood beside Yun Jian. His handsome face paired with his cold expression made it seem as if all of this had nothing to do with him. He only had eyes for her. The person who was mysteriously sucked into another world was my grandson Joseph. The world he was sucked into was a place called the Central Continent. This was what the people in that world told him. John explained again as he led Yun Jian and Ce to a row of simple houses. My grandson plans to bring everyone to explore that world. However, we don't know how we're going to go there yet. Let me introduce you to my grandson Joseph. He's a friendly person, Hardadef said as he led Yun Jian and Ce to a house. There were 4 or 5 people sitting around the table in the house. One of them was a man who was about 25 years old. He had beautiful golden curly hair. This man was John's grandson, and also the one who was unintentionally dragged into the central continent. Joseph, these are the 2 new friends, Hardadef introduced Yun Jian and Ce to his grandson, before turning around to introduce Joseph and the others. Joseph was indeed a friendly person. When he heard that Yun Jian and Ce were going to the central continent, he pointed to the benches in the house and gestured for Yun Jian and Ce to sit down. It's a very beautiful world. Trust me, I'll definitely bring you there. According to my observations over the past month, the entrance to that world will definitely open again in 3 days. After Joseph introduced himself to Yun Jian and Ce, he spoke to Yun Jian and Ce. Yun Jian was good at replying, but Ce didn't say a word. Joseph's friends were both male and female, and they all welcomed Yun Jian and Ce. Joseph's words were filled with confidence. Yun Jian blinked and continued to ask him, "Why are you so sure that the entrance to that world will open again in 3 days?" Intuition, I guess. Joseph didn't explain much and instead gave Yun Jian a casual and charming smile. Chapter 1900. Yun Jian and Joseph were sitting not far away just now, so Ce had been listening and did not think anything was amiss. When he saw Joseph flashing a bashful smile at Yun Jian, Ce was enraged as he pulled Yun Jian's hand and walked out. How dare this man named Joseph smile at his Xiao Jian like that? Before Ce could pull Yun Jian out of the room, however, Joseph had a sense of justice. Joseph, who had a sense of justice, spoke up to stop them when he saw Ce tugging Yun Jian's hand and walking out. Hey, bro, you're going to break her delicate hand if you hold her hand like that. Ce was not that enraged initially, but when he heard Joseph's words, his piercing gaze was like a murderous sword that was directed at Joseph. Before Joseph realized what he said was inappropriate, he stood up when he saw Ce refusing to let go. His handsome face in the eyes of foreigners was instantly displeased. Hey bro, how can you treat a woman like this? Joseph had no idea who he had offended. As he spoke, he went over to pull Yun Jian away from Ce. Before Joseph's hand could touch Yun Jian, however, Ce had already pulled Yun Jian into his embrace and dug his hand into his trouser pocket. It was empty. Where was their marriage certificate? Yun Jian was exasperated. She had secretly hidden the marriage certificate that he had been keeping with him before this. Ce, who could not get his hands on the marriage certificate, had a glint in his eyes as he encircled Yun Jian in his arms and gave Joseph a sideways glance. Stay away from my woman. As he spoke, he grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked out. Hey, I told you it's not good to treat a woman like this. What are you doing? Joseph was worried about Yun Jian, so he picked up his jacket and chased after them. When he reached the entrance, Yun Jian and Ce were gone. F***ck, that bro isn't bullying a woman, is he? He's not being violent, is he? Joseph hurried after them as he thought about it. Yun Jian blinked as Ce pulled her all the way to a cliff. She could feel that he was furious at the moment. However, he held her small hand with controlled strength and did not hurt her. Where are you taking me? Yun Jian blinked and asked. Ce did not say anything, pulling her hand all the way to a place surrounded by dense bushes with a cliff behind them. Just as they made their way into the dense bushes, Ce pinned Yun Jian against the edge of the cliff and bent down to kiss her with heavy breaths. By the time Yun Jian came back to her senses, he was already kissing her with a strong sense of jealousy. The cliff was surrounded by trees that were connected to the dense bushes. There was a huge rock above them. As long as one did not walk into the bushes, one would not be able to sense that there was someone here. At this moment, Ce pushed Yun Jian against the cliff. In order to prevent the small rocks from pressing down on her back, he placed his large palm on her back. Ce's kiss was ferocious and Yun Jian's back felt a lot of pressure, but her back was unscathed. Ce's palm that was pressed against Yun Jian's back was scratched by the pebbles, but he did not care. After the kiss, Yun Jian wrapped her hands around Ce's neck. She wanted to ask Ce what was wrong, but she felt Ce raise her two small hands above her head with his other large palm and withdraw his other hand from her back. Yun Jian could see that the back of Ce's hand that was pressed against her back was scratched by the rocks. It was even bleeding. You're bleeding, Yun Jian said anxiously. Before Yun Jian could finish, however, Ce's bruised hand lifted her leg that was in the skirt, forming a 90-degree angle as he leaned forward. Chapter 1901. Reality proved that a man like Ce who had tasted meat couldn't help but be a vegetarian every day. Even if Yun Jian was stupid, she could tell that he was angry because Joseph was too close to her. She had to admit that she liked Ce's angry look. Yun Jian blinked slightly. Her legs were lifted, and she suddenly wrapped her arms around his neck. It was a tacit consent for Ce to do something to her in the wilderness where there were only trees, bushes, and cliffs around them. But the place was well covered. Ce was also a normal man. Seeing his beloved woman hinting at him like this, he didn't hold back anymore and used his actions to prove his love for her. Hunting school. After sending Yun Jian and the other students into the forest, Lin Wei and Jamie returned to their residence. The students had to survive in the forest for a month. In this month, even if the students were attacked by wild beasts and accidentally died in the forest, It was their own fate. Everything depended on one's ability. Of course, this wasn't the main point for Lin Wei and Jamie. The main point was that Lin Wei and Jamie could be said to have a relaxing vacation for this month. Lin Wei didn't plan to stay in the hunting school for long, and Hun's assassin training camp still needed him. But for some reason, he didn't want to return to Hun for this month. One had to know that among the 4 leaders of Hun, only Lin Wei was the most dedicated. It could be said that he had devoted his life to Hun. In the past, whenever Adam, Mo Sun, and Shuang went out to play, Lin Wei would directly reject them and continue to train his assassin training camp. Lin Wei played a huge part in Hun's success today. Initially, Lin Wei had planned to return to Hun's assassin training camp for this month, but he didn't want to go back now. Returning to his simple bedroom in the hunting school, Yiling was sitting at the foot of the bed. Seeing him return, Yiling stood up fearfully, but she heard Lin Wei's words continue. "Pack up and leave with me." Yiling had stayed in the hunting school for almost 10 years and hadn't left for 10 years. She missed home and wanted to leave, but she couldn't. Therefore, after hearing Lin Wei's words, Yiling's gloomy face instantly lit up with anticipation. "I can leave this place?" Yiling asked Lin Wei in disbelief. Lin Wei was still a man of few words. He looked at Yiling, nodded, and then turned around to open the door, intending to leave for a while. "Then can I go home now?" Yiling's face was filled with disbelief. She looked at Lin Wei in disbelief, and took 2 steps towards Lin Wei excitedly. However, just as she excitedly took 2 steps towards Lin Wei, Yiling didn't notice the smooth ground and fell directly in front of Lin Wei in the next second. Yiling had developed well and was very plump. With this slip, her ample bosom directly fell onto Lin Wei's arm. Feeling the warmth, Lin Wei's calm expression changed drastically. Fortunately, Lin Wei's face was facing the door, so Yiling couldn't see his expression. By now, Yiling had realized her rudeness just now. She stood up straight with a blush while Lin Wei's expression returned to normal. "Watch the ground when you're walking. Why are you running around?" To ease the situation just now, Lin Wei coughed lightly and scolded Yiling. Yiling blinked. For some reason, she wasn't afraid of his scolding at all. "Softer, softer, mm." Yun Jian tried her best not to make a sound as Ce pressed her against the edge of the cliff to do something embarrassing. Her face was as red as an apple. Ce kept his eyes on Yun Jian. With a smile on his face, most of his anger dissipated. His Xiao Jian was the prettiest at this moment. Just as Ce was hugging Yun Jian, Joseph's voice came from afar. Chapter 1902. Joseph's voice was getting closer and closer. It was impossible for Ce to stop at this critical juncture. Ce kissed Yun Jian's lips and blocked her beautiful voice. "Brother, brother, brother. Oh my God. Did he really bully her? That little girl looks so delicate. How could she have such a boyfriend? He even resorted to domestic violence. This kind of person should be arrested and sent to the police station." Joseph couldn't find them. After wandering around for a while, he started walking back while muttering to himself. Joseph was a righteous person. Even though he saw Yun Jian and thought that Yun Jian was pretty, there was no such thing as love at first sight. Love at first sight was based on the other party's looks. It wasn't love. Even though Lin Wei had said those words to Yiling when he first saw her, it didn't mean that Lin Wei had fallen in love with Yiling at first sight. Even now, Lin Wei still didn't love Yiling. He had only said those words because he found Yiling pleasing to the eye. Joseph had chased after them because he saw Ce's fierce expression. It was as if he wanted to eat Yun Jian up. Of course, eating here was different from being a loving couple. Joseph thought that Ce was going to beat Yun Jian up. It was domestic violence. However, after looking around for a while, Joseph couldn't find them, so he went back. After Joseph left, Ce didn't restrain himself at all. Yun Jian, who was pressed against the cliff, grabbed his shirt and didn't know where to put her hands. Moans came continuously from her mouth. In the little forest, the spring scenery was endless. Joseph searched for Yun Jian and Ce all the way, but he couldn't find them. Thus, he returned to the simple house where they had set up camp. Joseph's grandfather John, who had introduced Yunjian and Ce to Joseph, and had even told Yunjian and Ce about the details, grabbed Joseph's ear. "Joseph, where did you go?" John asked Joseph. "Ouch, ouch, ouch. Grandpa, I saw that he was about to resort to domestic violence, so I went to stop him." Joseph had an innocent look on his face as his grandfather dragged him 2 steps by the ear. "That's enough. Why are you joining in the fun? Do you want to watch the lovey-dovey couple? My son of a B** teach, grow some eyes, be careful not to be destroyed." John loosened his grip on Joseph's ear and muttered a few words of reprimand. John was in his 50s or 60s this year. He had a rich life experience, so he naturally saw through it. Hardedef could tell that Yunjian and Ce weren't ordinary people. This was especially true for Ce, a young man. Hardedef thought of Ce and his eyes darkened. This young man was definitely not an ordinary person. He was not to be trifled with. In the grove, Yunjian, who had been pestered by Ce thrice, was weak in the knees. Ce tidied Yunjian's clothes back to their original state. He did not stop even when there were people coming over, and even after Ce tidied up Yunjian's clothes, Yunjian pushed Ce away and walked forward. Her legs were numb, but she had good stamina and could still walk. Seeing that Yunjian was ignoring him, Ce went up to hold her hand. "Xiaojian." Yunjian shook Ce's hand off and walked back a little angrily. He was angry for no reason just now, and now it was her turn to piss him off. In fact, Yunjian was inwardly overjoyed. Just as they got back, Joseph went up to Yunjian with his friends when he saw her. "You're back. He didn't do anything to you, did he?" Joseph asked Yunjian. Ce's expression darkened when he saw Joseph approaching Yunjian again. He pulled Yunjian into his arms and glared at Joseph from the corner of his eyes like a cheetah. Yunjian ran her fingers through her hair without saying a word. Her face was terrifyingly red. "Yunjian, why's your face so red? We all saw it just now. He pulled you out selfishly. Don't tell me he hit you?" "Yunjian, don't be scared. If you meet a scumbag, we'll definitely help you. Did he hit you? Your face is so red, right?" A charming woman in her 20s with dyed purple hair and a high nose stood beside Joseph. She glared at Ce when she saw how red Yunjian was and wanted to speak up for Yunjian. Joseph and his friends were looking at Yunjian, thinking that Ce had abused Yunjian and wanted to stand up for Yunjian. Noticing that Joseph kept staring at Yunjian, Ce's jealousy rose again. He glanced at Joseph from the corner of his eyes and said without batting an eyelid in front of everyone, "You're the one who's going to make a fool of yourself." Chapter 1903. Ce's straightforwardness made Yunjian blush. He actually dared to say such a thing out so directly. It was as if he was afraid that Joseph and the rest didn't know what they did in the forest. Hearing Ce's words, Joseph, his friends, and the rest of them did not know how to react. Made a child? In the forest. Joseph and his companions were all stunned. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough. Nicola, who wanted to speak up for Yunjian, had a boyfriend. Nicola was the first to react to Ce's words. In addition, she was wearing a black, sexy, secret agent miniskirt and a tight-fitting black outfit. There was a butterfly knife tied to one of her legs under the miniskirt that no one could see. However, when Enila lowered her head slightly, she could see that Yunjian's fair thighs were red from the friction. It was obvious that she had done something bad. Cough, cough, cough. Where were we? The entrance to the central mainland will open in 3 days, right? Hurry up, let's continue with our preparations. Nicola was the first to react. She dragged Joseph and his other friends into the house, while everyone else was still reacting to the situation. Awkward and mysterious awkwardness. Nicola was misled by Joseph's words. She really thought that Ce had bullied or abused Yunjian. Nicola thought that Yunjian was just an ordinary girl. Nicola had a strong sense of justice. As a woman, if she saw Ce abusing or bullying Yunjian, Nicola would definitely stand up for Yunjian, even if she had just met Yunjian not long ago. But the man in front of her was a jealous king? He pulled her into the forest not to hit her. But cough, cough, cough. She couldn't think about it anymore. Nicola flicked her purple hair and pushed Joseph and his friends into the house. Outside the house, Yunjian tugged at the corner of her lips. Siyi's lips curled as he grabbed Yunjian's hand, satisfaction written all over his face. Without a marriage certificate, he could still declare his sovereignty. His Xiaojian could only be his. No one could dream about it. Hardadef was considered the supervisor here. He arranged a room for Ce and Yunjian, so that Ce and Yunjian could stay here at night and rest during the day. Yunjian and Ce rested here. In the next 3 days, Yunjian got to know Joseph, his friends Hardadef and the people here. They were all friendly and friendly. These people were all modest and friendly, especially Hardadef. As long as there were people who wanted to go to the central continent and wanted to explore it, or people who were interested in passing by, he would take them in. Unfortunately, Meng Zhang and his friends who had interrupted Ci's plan in the cave not long ago were taken in by Hardadef as well. Yunjian, who knew about this, did not appear in front of them. So Meng Zhang and his friends did not know that Yunjian and Ce were here as well. It was only on the 3rd day when Joseph announced that he had found the exact location of the central mainland that Yunjian and Ce appeared in front of everyone. Meng Zhang was stunned when he saw Yunjian and Ce. Wu Tianlin, who had been harboring ill intentions toward Yunjian, also glanced at Yunjian from the corner of his eyes. Although he knew Yunjian's identity before this, it was a huge blow to him. Hateful people were hateful. No matter how powerful they could not change this reality. As for Wan Minglin, she could not help feeling jealous when she saw Ce with one hand in his pocket and the other holding Yunjian's hand. Why was such an outstanding man hers and not hers? Was it because she met him too late? Yunjian was also a student of the hunting academy. She was even related to an Hun group. Once she thought of this, Wan Minglin's heart clenched in jealousy. Is everyone ready? To be honest, I'm not sure if I can send everyone back this time. The other world is very dangerous, even life-threatening. If you don't want to take the risk, I advise you to stay. Chapter 1904. Joseph's words were said in all seriousness, as if he was making a solemn promise, but also as if he was a hero, a Superman. In Joseph's country, messiahs, heroes, and supermen were the targets that the boys yearned to be. And today, Joseph stood in front of everyone like a hero, saying those touching words to everyone. No one would say such a thing. Joseph's words must have come with a lot of determination. The group of people standing beside Joseph were all moved. Yunjian blinked, but didn't show any signs of being moved. In the end, everyone unanimously decided that except for John and the older ones, the younger ones would follow Joseph. Whether they could return from this trip to the other world was unknown, and whether they could find the entrance to the other world was also unknown. Of course, Joseph and the others didn't know that it was only a matter of time for Yunjian and Ce to find the entrance. The group of people followed Joseph, and soon continued to move forward from the row of houses. Knowing that Joseph had been to the other world, everyone present was very interested. This was especially true for Wan Minglin. She followed closely behind Joseph and asked him about the other world he had been to. In the end, Wan Minglin felt as if she had been to the other world herself. It was as if she understood everything about the other world after listening to Joseph's words. Wan Minglin ran to Yunjian, raised her head proudly, and boasted to Yunjian, "Did you know that there are flying horses in the other world? It's the kind of horse that can fly, just like the ones in fairy tales." Wan Minglin spoke as if she had been to the central mainland. Yunjian gave a cold smile and held Ci's large hand, ignoring Wan Minglin. This scene made Wan Minglin so angry that her face turned green. At this moment, Joseph suddenly pointed to a spot and said to everyone, "Look, it's that cave. It's glowing." At that time, I fell down from that cave and arrived in another world. I remember that the cave was glowing as well. It's glowing now. Let's hurry over. Otherwise, we won't be able to go to that world. Joseph led the group to a cave. At the same time, the cave suddenly emitted a white light. This scene shocked the surrounding people. At the same time, Joseph suddenly shouted, "Let's go!" With that, Joseph led the way into the cave. Seeing this, the people around Joseph also rolled in one by one. How could Wan Mingling care about Yun Jian and Ce now? She chased after them and rolled into the cave. There's a strong spiritual aura in the cave. Ce narrowed his eyes as he looked at the cave. Let's go over too. Yun Jian glanced sideways at Ce. Okay. Ce grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked over. After everyone had entered the cave, the light in the cave was like a flash in the pan. It was as if it had never appeared in the first place. There was no more sound. The moment Yun Jian entered the cave and was enveloped by the white light, she felt as if she was bathed in sunlight. She felt dizzy. Perhaps it was because the spiritual energy injected into the white light was too strong, and Yun Jian's memory of the sorcerer god was incomplete. So she fainted with a headache. Yun Jian wasn't the first to wake up. When she woke up, most of the people had woken up too. What entered their eyes was no longer earth, but a world filled with white fog and smoke. This was the central mainland. Yun Jian, you're finally awake. Your man is gone. We didn't see him around when we woke up just now. Could he have been transported to another place? Nikolai walked over after Yun Jian woke up and asked Yun Jian. Chapter 1905. Yun Jian's expression changed slightly, but she didn't show any signs of panic. She knew what he was capable of. Not to mention the central mainland, even in the god's continent, he was a god at the top of the pyramid. He had the power to destroy the central mainland with a wave of his hand. Naturally, nothing would happen to him. But where did he go? Yun Jian frowned. She didn't know. Are you still his girlfriend? Aren't you nervous that he's missing? Aren't you afraid? Shouldn't you be screaming? I don't think you're suitable to be his girlfriend. Do you think you can show off just because you're a student of the Hunter Academy? So what if you know the Hun organization? This is another world. You're nothing here. I don't think you're qualified to be his girlfriend. Wan Minglan acted as if she was the legal wife, and Yun Jian had stolen her away. After hearing that Ce was missing, she ran over to Yun Jian and yelled at Yun Jian when she saw how calm Yun Jian was. The reason why Wan Minglan was suddenly not afraid of Yun Jian and ran over to Yun Jian was because they had entered a new world. Yun Jian was nothing here. Minglan, stop talking. This is not the place we know. Don't talk like a cannon. Be careful of getting yourself into trouble. Meng Zhang couldn't help but yell at Wan Minglan. Surrounded by a large forest, the air was filled with smoke. White fog filled the entire sky, giving people a feeling as if they had entered a fantasy paradise. This is the central mainland. Everyone follow me. I know a friend here. He's the second young master of the Long family, one of the three great families of the central mainland. Joseph stood up and said. Thus Joseph led the group to the Long family. Brother Joseph has been to this world before. You're amazing. You even know someone from this world. Wan Minglan had been pestering Joseph all this while. Now she even called him brother. Wan Minglan felt proud of herself for being so close to Joseph. Thus, she turned to look at Yun Jian. Wan Minglan glared fiercely at Yun Jian when she thought about the fact that Ce was missing and how calm Yun Jian was. She looked like she was bragging about herself, but also like she was mocking Yun Jian. Yun Jian ignored her completely. Hearing Wan Minglan's words, Joseph scratched his head embarrassedly. Not at all. We just met by accident. Just as Joseph and his group arrived at the Long family, which was ranked third among the three great families of the central continent, the Long family, when he entered the door, he saw such a scene. The inner courtyard of the Long family was filled with corpses. In the sky above the Long family's courtyard, an expert was baptizing the Long family. It was obvious that the Long family was about to be exterminated. As for the Long family's clan leader, he was resisting the attacks of that expert with all his might. Clearly, he was on the verge of collapsing. The group of young men and women beside the Long family's patriarch were the descendants of the Long family. Seeing this bloody scene, Joseph and the surrounding people cried out in alarm. When the second young master of the Long family saw Joseph, his pupils constricted and he shouted at Joseph, Go! Go! Joseph! Leave this place! Run! In the central continent, it was common for families to fall. Sometimes, a powerful expert with strong spiritual power could exterminate a family. Joseph was stunned when he heard this. Wan Minglin was so frightened that she turned around and wanted to run. Since you're here, don't leave. Stay here. The expert flying in the sky waved his hand and closed the door. Wan Minglin originally wanted to be the first to run out, but the door was closed tightly. She was so frightened that she sat on the ground and trembled. Why? Why did they have to encounter such a thing? What a coincidence. They came here just when the Long family was about to be exterminated. It's actually a human without any spiritual power. The expert discovered that Joseph and the rest did not have any spiritual power and was surprised. He then relaxed his attack on the Long family's patriarch. Interesting. You're actually from Earth. Ha ha ha. All of you will become my dinner. The expert pointed his spear at everyone. For a moment, everyone, including Wan Minglin, was so frightened that they did not dare to move. One must know that there were immortal cultivators in this world. If an immortal cultivator moved a finger, they would not be able to fight back at all. Just as the expert was about to kill everyone with a wave of his hand, however, a blinding light shot out from Yin Jian's hand in front of everyone and easily blocked the attack. Seeing this, the expert's pupils constricted. This little girl was actually able to block his attack. One must know that this little girl did not have any spiritual power. In the various continents, there were only two reasons why one could not see the other party's spiritual power. First, the other party was a human from Earth. Second, the other party's spiritual power was higher than his. Could it be that this little girl? The expert was stunned. Then he frowned and asked Yun Jian, "Who are you?" At this moment, everyone looked at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian released her aura in front of everyone. She looked directly into the expert's eyes without fear. Suddenly, she curled her lips and sneered. Just like 1,000 years ago, when she was famous across the continents for killing the gods, all the experts of the continents were frightened by her name. She said coldly, "Despicable commoner, listen carefully to the question of who I am." Chapter 1906. At this moment, Yin Jian's aura was fully unleashed. That powerful aura made everyone present shudder. Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Minglin, Joseph, Nikolai, and the rest felt their hearts skip a beat. Yin Jian's words made the powerhouse fly in the air in a daze. He could not react for a while. Not to mention the Long family, the last of the three major families in the central mainland. When Joseph brought his people here, the Long family, who could not withstand the powerhouse's attack and were about to be wiped out, only wanted to curse when they saw Joseph and the rest. Were they stupid? Coming here at this juncture was asking for death. However, the Long family did not expect such a huge change. They were not mistaken. A ray of light flew out from the hand of the human girl, who did not have any spiritual power, and blocked the powerhouse's attack. The girl even called herself Sorcerer Goddess. In the legends, she had been to the gods' continent that no one could reach, or even know if it existed in this world. She had even killed the gods of the gods' continent with her bare hands. The Sorcerer Goddess, the daughter of the Sorcerer clan from the Sorcerer clan of the Yulong continent. The Sorcerer Goddess, the youngest and most powerful of the Sorcerer clan. She had led the Yulong continent from the bottom of the tens of thousands of continents to an existence that no other continent could rival except for the legendary gods' continent. Back then, the Yulong continent was the lowest level continent among the tens of thousands of continents. The people of the Yulong continent were existences that could be trampled on by any continent. Later on, the Sorcerer clan, the number one family of the Yulong continent, produced a Sorcerer Goddess. In just a few years, this girl named Sorcerer Goddess led the Yulong continent to become the most powerful continent among the tens of thousands of continents other than the legendary gods' continent. Later on, the Sorcerer Goddess fell. Although the Yulong continent was not as powerful as before, it was no longer a continent that could be trampled on by anyone. Later on, there were rumors that the Sorcerer Goddess had been to the gods' continent and had killed the gods of the gods' continent. The Sorcerer Goddess of the Yulong continent was a great figure that was respected and feared by tens of thousands of continents. The most appropriate example was that if the immortal cultivators of the tens of thousands of continents had children who were fooling around and refused to cultivate spiritual power, the parents would only need to say in front of their children, "Stop fooling around. If you don't listen to me, I'll let the sorcerer god eat you." This child would definitely be so scared that his entire body would tremble, and he would immediately run off to cultivate his spiritual power. However, the sorcerer god, who had struck fear into the hearts of millions of people, had already fallen. Apart from the Yulong continent, no one from the other continents knew about the return of the sorcerer god. Therefore, when Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was dumbfounded. Of course, this was only limited to the expert flying in the sky and the people of the Long family. Ni Kra, Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin, Wan Minglin, and the others did not know the meaning of the two words sorcerer god. Seeing that everyone was stunned, Wan Minglin was also stunned. Then, she glanced at Yun Jian disdainfully. In front of everyone, she wanted to be in the limelight, so she said, "What is sorcerer god?" After saying that, Wan Minglin looked at Yun Jian. Her face was full of mockery, contempt, and deep reproach. "Yun Jian, what kind of critical moment is this? Can you be a little more mindful? Do you think you're still on Earth? Do you think that if you pretend to be from the Yulong continent, people will give you face? Don't think too highly of yourself. It's fine if you want to die, but please don't bring harm to all of us." Something like this was happening in the Long family of the central mainland. At the same time, in the deity continent really existed, and it stood at the top of the millions of continents. It required a strong spiritual power to open the passage to the deity continent. Similarly, to leave the deity continent to go to the millions of continents or Earth, one also needed to open the passage. There were no more than 10 deities on the deity continent who could open the passage to or from the deity continent. Therefore, even if the deities on the deity continent really existed, they could not stand in front of everyone. The deity continent, the temple was the symbol of the deity continent. At the same time, it was also the place where the ruler of the deity continent lived. It symbolized supreme glory. All the deities on the deity continent were under the jurisdiction of the ruler of the temple. In the temple, an old man sat in the middle of the main hall, eating meat and drinking wine. A man walked in from outside the temple. This man was extremely handsome. His tall and slender figure was so perfect that it made people gasp in amazement. Even the splendor of the divine hall was overshadowed by his handsome face. The old man took a bite of chicken. When he saw the man, he was stunned. Then he cheered. "Yo, the ruler of our deity continent, the Lord Divine Lord, is finally willing to come home?" As he spoke, the old man took a bite of chicken drumstick and a sip of wine. He looked at the man left and right as if he was looking for someone. When he could not find the person, the old man scolded the man with dissatisfaction. Chapter 1907. As the old man spoke, he took another bite of the drumstick and drank a mouthful of wine with it, looking extremely satisfied. Siyi's gaze darkened as he glanced at the old man from the corner of his eyes. Suddenly, he stretched out his right hand and grabbed the air in front of the old man. The old man, who had been sitting comfortably on the short table, was suddenly pulled up by a force and hovered in the air. The drumstick in his hand fell off and spun in front of him. The old man wanted to grab his drumstick, but there was a force that prevented him from doing so. The old man could not break Siyi's spiritual energy, even after exhausting all his spiritual energy. Burp. The old man burped first and hovered in the air, glaring at Siyi with his not-so-ferocious eyes before continuing. "Brat, are you trying to kill your father? Hurry up and put me down. You chased after the sorcerer goddess back then, and only came back to see me after thousands of years. You're being rude to me the moment you come back. Be careful or I'll spank you." As he spoke, the old man even clenched his fist at Siyi like an old child. The temple was where the ruler of deity continent resided. The ruler of deity continent was also the ruler of the gods. It was the symbol of supremacy, the symbol of ultimate capability. Siyi was the ruler of deity continent. Lord Deity was the title the gods of deity continent gave him. This old man was Lord Deity's father, the Lord Deity. At the same time, the old man was also the previous ruler of Deity Continent. Lord Deity was the title the gods gave to the previous ruler. At this moment the Lord Main God, who was revered by all the gods, was hovering in the air, unable to land on the ground. Old man, let me give you a piece of advice. If the beloved disciples you sent to tail her dare show up again, don't blame me for killing them. Ce looked at the old man coldly as he uttered those words. Every time he was alone with Xiao Jian, or wanted to do something, the annoying fellows the old man sent to watch their every move would appear. If it were not for the old man's dignity, he would have destroyed those fellows directly. With that, he retracted his hand, and his spiritual energy dissipated. Like a bird with a broken wing, the old man fell from the air without any warning and landed back where he had been sitting just now. With a loud thud, the old man groaned and rubbed his butt to face Ce, feeling wronged. How can you treat your old man like this? Brat, be careful, or I'll make the sorcerer goddess Cutie ignore you forever. How dare you? Ce's eyes darkened when he heard that the old man wanted her to ignore him forever. The old man was terrified. Seeing the change in Ce's expression, he quickly waved his hand. No, I'll listen to you. Which goddess Cutie is yours? And I dare not snatch her from you. He wasn't being a coward. He was just going easy on him. The old man wiped the sweat off his brow, and instantly felt that it was fortunate that he had cleared up the relationship with the little girl one step ahead of him. He was now the sorcerer goddess Cutie's master. On the other side, after Wan Minglin mocked Yun Jian, the surroundings were silent. After 2 seconds of silence, the Long family master suddenly looked at Wan Minglin. He didn't even care about the experts who were flying in the sky and almost annihilating the Long family. Wan Minglin was still feeling smug at this moment. But the Long family master suddenly looked at Wan Minglin and said to his Long family guards, "Capture that woman." According to the continent's practice of speaking rudely to the sorcerer goddess, that woman should be burned alive. Shatter his soul and scatter his soul. This practice was a rule set by the continents 1,000 years ago. Anyone who spoke rudely to the sorcerer goddess would have their soul shattered after being burned to death. Their soul would be destroyed. They would never be able to reincarnate. What kind of practice is this? You're treating human lives like grass. Is there any law? Wan Minglin was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Her face darkened as she shouted, "Meng Zhang Wu Tianlin," and the others were also shocked. What kind of practice was this? Speaking rudely to Yun Jian, she actually wanted to burn her alive, shatter her soul, and destroy it. Meng Zhang, Wu Tianlin and Aikila, and the others present couldn't understand. Yun Jian, who was standing on the same spot, smirked slightly. She turned her head to the side and faced Wan Minglin in front of everyone. She was cold and full of vigor, as if she was the ruler of all things. Her words rang out. The words that came out of her mouth stunned everyone present. Her vigor, her arrogance. Chapter 1908. The sorcerer goddess was the law of the land. This was not an exaggeration at all. Yun Jian had the unique aura of the sorcerer goddess. Even if the Long family and the powerhouses in the sky did not believe it, they could not do it. Who else could have such a strong aura other than the sorcerer goddess? Although they were not within 3 meters of Yun Jian, they could not detect if there was really no spiritual power within 3 meters of the sorcerer goddess. However, with Yun Jian's aura just now, no one else in the world could do it except for the sorcerer goddess. Sorcerer goddess, the head of the Long family suddenly knelt down in front of Yun Jian and shouted. Seeing this, the younger generation of the Long family knelt down and imitated the head of the Long family to kowtow to Yun Jian. In an instant, the scene was extremely chaotic. The only thing that was left in the crowd's ears was the words sorcerer goddess. It was obvious that the sorcerer goddess was very impressive back then. Even today, thousands of years later, when they heard the words sorcerer goddess, all the families in the mainland would still kneel down and kowtow to her. In an instant, the words sorcerer goddess shook the sky. The powerhouse, who was so arrogant in front of the crowd, just now wanted to escape when he saw that the situation was not right. However, Yun Jian, who was in front of the crowd, stretched out her hand. She did not even look at the powerhouse. She used her spiritual power to grab the powerhouse's body and squeeze gently. The powerhouse, who could annihilate Long family, the tale of Central Mainland's 3 dominant families, all by himself, was killed the moment Yun Jian pinched him lightly in the air. Exploded. The powerhouse's eyes widened. The second before he exploded in front of the crowd, he looked at Yun Jian in disbelief, but he had no choice but to believe it. In the next second, the powerhouse's body was completely destroyed. Not even his bones could be found. He completely disappeared in front of the crowd. Seeing this scene, the head of the Long family and the rest of the Long family gasped in shock. As expected of the sorcerer goddess, she was so powerful that no one could defeat her. That powerhouse just now had the ability to force the Long family into a dead end by himself. But as the sorcerer deity, Yun Jian was able to destroy such a powerful expert with just a pinch of her fingers. Seeing this scene, the people from the Long family sighed, but they didn't want to die. They had seen this kind of scene many times. However, Wan Minglin and the others were so scared that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She kill. Wan Minglin was so scared that she stuttered, unable to let out a fart for a long time. However, just as Wan Minglin stuttered for a long time without saying a word, Yun Jian suddenly felt a huge wave of spiritual energy around her. She narrowed her eyes, and in the next second, her figure flashed and chased in the direction of the huge wave of spiritual energy. Whether it was the Long family or Joseph's group, since she had come to the central continent, she did not plan to stay for long. At this moment, Yun Jian didn't say anything and just chased after the figure with huge spiritual energy fluctuations. 2 shadows that were as fast as phantoms shuttled through the forest. In the next moment, the figure in front of him landed on the ground. Yun Jian couldn't help but narrow her eyes at someone who could run so far in front of her. This person must be a god from the gods' continent. Apart from the gods' continent's gods, there was no one else who could run so far in front of her before she caught up to them. In the next breath, Yun Jian grabbed the shoulder of the figure, who was running at high speed. "You've been watching me since we were in the hunting school. What's your motive?" After Yun Jian grabbed the figure's owner, her cold voice rang out. The person whose shoulder was grabbed by Yun Jian was a woman who was slightly taller than Yun Jian and had a voluptuous figure. The woman was looking straight ahead, so Yun Jian couldn't see her face clearly. Hearing that Yun Jian had discovered her long ago, the woman was obviously shocked. However, Yun Jian's words rang out again. These words made the woman even more flabbergasted. Chapter 1909. If what Yun Jian said just now was not shocking enough, the way she addressed her as senior sister was a huge blow to the woman's ego. How did she know? The woman thought so and asked, "How do you know who I am?" "Master met you on Earth, but we've never met. How do you know of my existence?" "He speaks the truth when he's drunk. Apart from me, he only has one disciple." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Obviously, Master Bailey spoke the truth when he was drunk. He told Yun Jian that he had another female disciple apart from Yun Jian. The woman was speechless when she heard that. She felt like she had been betrayed by her stupid master. The woman didn't feel like she had betrayed her master's trust when she was caught stalking her and recognized her identity. "All right, since you recognized me, I won't hide anymore." The woman turned around and looked at Yun Jian. What entered Yun Jian's eyes was a woman's face with an ancient charm. The woman had a strong scholarly smell, but her body was so charming that men couldn't stop looking at her. Her seemingly innocent face, coupled with her voluptuous breasts and plump buttocks, made her look cold, gentle, sexy, and a little mysterious. It had to be said that an ordinary person would give off a strange feeling if they were to have these characteristics. However, when everything was presented on this woman, there was a unique kind of beauty that opened people's eyes. Even Yun Jian couldn't help but blink. "I've heard that you're the only disciple apart from me," Strictly speaking, you're my junior sister. The woman reached out her hand to Yun Jian and said boldly, "It's my first time meeting you. I'm Huang Yan, the first disciple of the deity continent's master god." The woman who called herself Huang Yan was very bold and straightforward. She had the refreshing feeling of a heroine. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and reached out to shake her hand. She rarely shook hands. So the people who could shake hands with her must be people she was happy to know. After shaking hands with him, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled faintly. Yun Jian, daughter of the sorcerer clan of the sorcerer tribe of the Yulong continent, sorcerer goddess. After Yun Jian finished speaking, the two of them got to know each other for the first time. When Huang Yan heard this, he curled his lips. "I know you. Master asked me to investigate a lot of information about you. He chased you from Earth to the central continent and asked me to keep an eye on you. I didn't expect that I would be exposed right from the start." As Huang Yan spoke, he drew an arc. Yun Jian was not stupid. Naturally, it was impossible for her not to have guessed the identity of her master by now. Just now, Huang Yan had also said that she was the #1 disciple of the master god of the gods continent. In other words, her teacher was the master god of the gods continent. When Yun Jian was the sorcerer goddess, she had been to the gods continent. Perhaps she hadn't recovered some specific memories yet, but she still knew what the gods continent's master gods represented. The master god of the gods continent was the previous ruler of the gods continent. At the same time, he was also the master god's father. Yun Jian, who knew the truth, curled the corners of her lips. When she thought of her master's childish appearance and the identity of the master god of the gods continent, it was really inappropriate. Originally, after being discovered by you, I should have taken you directly to the gods continent, but I'm not strong enough. When I came here, it was Master who opened the passage to leave the gods continent for me. If I want to go back, Master will come to pick me up 3 days later, Huang Yan said seriously. "I can open it," Yun Jian answered. "What?" Huang Yan was stunned. "I can open the passage to the gods continent," Yun Jian repeated in detail. After Huang Yan heard this, he was really stunned. "I've long heard rumors of your strength in the gods continent. You've even killed a god from the gods continent. I've always thought that you were able to go to the gods continent because some expert let you in. After all, there are no more than 10 gods in the gods continent who can open the passage to the gods continent." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.